You know what? You got another?
No, I'm good. Yeah, just this one piece is all I need.
Okay, so I'll go get you a stereo feed.
Oh yeah, come on.
No problem. I got a full stereo set. You're welcome.
So you do live sound in other places? It's good to know.
See, this is my small house. People are something crazy. Wait until I do my laptop.
Yeah.
Then I never like
You connect.
because then I can set all my effects, auto tuning, everything right to the same.
Oh yeah, yes. So at our creative space, we do live events, and we definitely need
Right here. And the board has compression, effects, delay, reverb.
What's what brand?
It is a Russian brand. It's a German brand.
I have two XR18s, basically a pair.
Yeah, I can run it.
iPad. Thank you.
There's a way to just go right here. They got sound, right? I got you. I got And the great thing about this is that you don't even have to worry about outside sound.
Right.
You can call your beat.
What's right here?
Yeah, so if you this order, you look at it. So all these are my options, so I can sing, and then all my effects. I have. This one is only 2 plus 6. But my other one is 8 plus 6, 32. But that's my baby, my big one.
I ran all the way back to my crib. Like, I don't know, there was a gap in time we didn't see me.
Oh, yeah.
I was on the highway like,
I had to do that this morning because I actually forgot all of my, that's a lot. Just like behind.
you know what, I need to do personally, but this is probably something I do right now. Was it a live musician, not considered a live equipment?
Yes.
I mean, like, obviously, probably don't feel like the names of the stuff, but you can say,
yeah, and that's a great way to say for shows and things like that.
Maybe if there's like even see like an app or something. Where you can plug it in.
Yeah, and so for me, like I also have walk around and everything.
Let's get
I got the whole bag. 651 242 6032 or 651 6032 or 651 242.
Unfortunately, your 603 is your
You can recuse one of us at a time. You have the party or something like that.
there's a lot of people like me, like and they look for something.
I'm not even.
It can be a very consistent thing because all I'm going to do is just pass it on. Hey, I got one for you. Come to the building when you want to set up. We're not going to do this.
I don't know Facebook. This is Cambridge. I totally yeah. I'm not even. I don't know. I had something.
I am in some shit. So I'm so.
I might turn if you want to turn on, that's it. I figure out who's pouring it. Oh yeah, you want to power on? Power on.
Okay. See?
It was just on. It's on. It's on.
Should we do it headset?
You do a headset. I don't. Let's see. Let's see what the case is going to be. Because I don't know how everything's going to roll. Once she changes in, then I can. I'm just waiting for your keys. Oh, sure. I'll switch it over to that. You have to stop. So where else have you got? He's got his sound over there, filtering out. He got everything rolling. He's not picking up any extra sounds for supply chain. So yeah, you actually know how to get things out. You see the amazing grace. You'll see the Okay, so we got headset for you? We got headset for you? So that way if you need to walk around and talk and things like that. Yeah, that can be headset for
I can. Been good. Been good. All right.
So you're on? Yeah. I'm gonna double check myself.
Or can I just put this on my inside? Can you hear me? We got away from there.
I got it.
I was a Jimi Hendrix fan back in the day, so I'm kind of into that feedback thing.
I'm gonna just move this way.
Yes, I can listen.
Oh, you need some help with that? Feedback.
Here, put it in my pocket then. No, the other way. Here. Let me try it.
Can I just, I'm gonna slip it in the pocket.
There it is. It worked. There you go.
I wish for it.
Maybe the.
There you go.
Oh, okay, good.
I was told we were gonna start at 1:30. I'm fine. Okay, so.
Hi.
Okay, well, you wanna sit down here for food and be all set up and ready?
How long am I gonna have to sit down here?
Unless you wanna go sit at the table.
I'm gonna ask.
You know.
I'm gonna ask you about 500 questions, and after you get to, you can go sit where you.
Do I have any idea when I'm gonna be up here? Do you have an idea?
Go in.
They
We would say,
they told me
hey,
behind Glenn Ford.
so I will.
Here I am. I'm Glenn Ford.
You Glenn Ford.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes. Okay, and what is your name?
Lacey White.
Lacey Johnson. Okay, so I will have you come up.
Okay, and you'll call me and then you'll pick me and
I will
everything?
fit you with everything.
I've heard of you, Lacey. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. You gonna start us up? Okay. Are we ready? Yeah. If I could have your attention. Hello? I'm hoping you guys don't make me feel insecure about my booming voice. They already made me wear a speaker, and I thought I could talk so robustly that you would hear me from wherever I am. Well, anyway, good evening, and or I should say good afternoon, because we're not quite that late. But welcome to be here, and welcome to the opportunity to sit down and discuss some of the economic issues that I believe are prescient for all of us to consider. It is also real nice to have a chance to talk about economic development issues and literacy and all of those issues without having to immediately have the answer that you're trying to sell to the audience, as opposed to asking the audience, hey, here are a set of facts. And what would you do then to combat these set of facts? And not that we have to have that conclusive answer for this evening, but that it could be the start of how we put this together such that you don't have people that are sitting on the outside just saying, I don't like that, and I think that's a stupid idea, and that'll never work, and hey, we tried that before, or worse yet, let's do another study, right? Because we're overly studied and under executed and under, I'm going to call it experimented, right? That as if anybody can sit down at any one time and be so brilliant that you come up with the right answers for the future. The real world doesn't work that way. I look at some of the most successful corporations in the world. Let's talk about Amazon. Jeff Bezos took 12 years before people stopped lambasting him because he hadn't made a profit. And now we look back at it in hindsight and go, I think the dude is pretty brilliant, or at least he's capable of building one of the most successful companies in the world. So there's got to be something there. I think about, as an example, I know we have some people from Wells Fargo here. If you read the story of Wells Fargo, if you go way back, started with some immigrant Italians who looked at farming in California, and they were recognizing that when they went to banks that were on the East Coast, that they couldn't quite get the capital that they needed. And what they then chose to do is to figure out when you needed money and when you needed money and when you needed money. And is there a way then that when you need the money that we give you all of what we've got, and then you are done with it at a certain period of time, and then we could take that amount of money and then dedicate to someone else, and then once again get it to someone else who might need it. What is that really saying? And this is a question that has perplexed me about how we address the African American market for years. And what is it about us? I call it toxic independence. That we try to be so independent that I'm kind of saying, I don't need you. I'm pretty good at who I am, but I don't think I need you. And the sad part about that is I don't care how good you are, you need someone else. And not only do you need someone else, you need a few someone else. And then you need someone that's sitting on the outside that says, oh, by the way, if all of you got together and we made this particular spin, we'd be even better. So there's a powerful message in there. I don't feel insecure at all as a person, but I know that there's a tremendous amount of things that I don't know. And some of it I don't really want to know because, like, as an example, I have a guy on my team who is he's brilliant at IT, absolutely brilliant. When he's home at night, he's playing around with IT. I look at that and go, "Oh, why is that even interesting to you? Why would you spend so much time?" And he'll send me things at 3 o'clock in the morning and tell me how wonderful something is. Now, mind you, intentionally, I don't respond to that until at least 8 o'clock, because if you aren't careful, you'll get a whole lot of those, right? So what is that really saying? It's saying that we all have some proclivities that we like, and we all have some that we want to avoid. And it's my belief that with this economic these economic issues that we're dealing with, it's going to take all hands on deck. There is no one brilliant person who can cover that whole landscape to get us where we are. Let me throw a couple facts at you as an example. There are 1.1 million self-employed African Americans in the US. 1.1 million self-employed African Americans in the US. By the way, and that number is down by 1.2 million because of COVID, right? We lost some people. We had some new people start, and we all know the story of how amazing African American women have been doing. They're starting a whole bunch of stuff real fast, right? However, when you also look at some of these numbers, that's a great fact. Black women are starting a tremendous number of business at a rapid rate. However, only 2% of private US firms have more than one employee that are Black owned. Right? What does that really say? We got a lot of work to do, right? We got a lot of work to do. That also then says, and I don't want to go over things that we already know that African Americans have a hard time finding capital. Matter of fact, I'm a master at the fact that I'm chasing capital. My personal bio is that I own in-city farms, and we're building large-scale aquaponics facilities around the country. And so every one of those facilities is around $34 million. And it's really interesting sometimes to go in front of someone and say, hey, I need to raise $34 million. How are we doing? Let's get to know each other. Let me show you this wonderful plan. Let me show you all of these experiences. Let me show you all of these other things. However, I remind everybody that the lending of money, in spite of all of the SWOT analyses and other things that you'd like to do, the lending of money is personal. Can you make me personally comfortable that you won't embarrass me? Can you make me personally comfortable that I'm not going to give you this money when you go to the Bahamas? Can you make me personally comfortable that you're going to be competent? All right? Now, anyone in what I'm going to call a business pitch can be brilliant for an hour. All right? It's kind of like when you go in for an interview. If you can't go in to an interview and be brilliant for an hour, you have no business being hired by anybody for any reason. It is when all of a sudden people start doing due diligence and they start looking at your logic and all of these other things that you start to run into some trouble. So I'm here pleading and interviewing and asking that hey, let's look at some of these facts and then give me some ideas on how you think we should attack it. So, for example, I gave you the one about the 2% of private U.S. firms being black owned. 43%, by the way, of African Americans make $30,000 or less, right? So in spite of thinking, hey, we're doing a whole lot better. We've got basketball players that are making 230 or signing $230 million contracts like it's going out of style and like there's a shortage of money, right? You've got a racial gap, if we were looking at African Americans versus white, of $11 trillion. $11 trillion. And if you read that sister's book about the sum of us, she essentially says, hey, you know what, if we weren't dealing with little silly issues like racism and some of these other ones, African Americans would probably have about $4 trillion of value in a $31 trillion economy year to year, right? So these numbers are big and profound. When you hear about the figure, and I'm sure everybody here has, about black purchasing power being around 1.2 trillion to 1.4 trillion, that's a useless number, frankly. It basically says we're spending a whole lot of money, but spending is not wealth creation, right? Spending is not wealth creation. I will make a whole lot of other people rich because we are like really good customers because we spend a hell of a lot of money. So we're really good on that, yet we get very little in return. So I spend a whole lot. Let me a little bit more out of school stuff. This is being taped. Anyhow, so I'm a former Pepsi executive. I headed up new concept development for PepsiCo. So when you looked at all those small versions of Taco Bell and Pizza Hut and Kentucky Fried Chicken that you'd see in airports and stadiums and a whole host of others, I started that inside the company with 2 other people. And when I left, which was over 16 years ago, that was a $2.9 billion business inside of PepsiCo, right? Now, I spent the rest of my life repenting for all of that dumb food that I had people eating. And so when you ask me what I'm doing now, which is big, I'm the CEO of In-City Farms. It's a big aquaponic facilities that we're going to spread into a whole lot of these food deserts. We can find enough land in certain communities, we're going to put them there so that the community itself can be a food producer as opposed to simply being held responsible for buying from retail grocery stores, right? So if your neighbor is producing it, and you can say to your neighbor, hey, look, why can't we have a fresh this? Then that neighbor then has the opportunity to say, well, look, will you buy enough of them? And if so, okay, then let's plant that. And in a few weeks, now we'll have that on a pretty reoccurring basis so that you can do that. So Minneapolis has not been the easiest city for me to deal with. I'm working through that, but we bought our land and we've got some things started in St. Louis, also have some things started in Pittsburgh, some other things that are started in Iowa, which was a real eye-opener because I found out that in spite of Iowa and all of my again, I'm from the south side of Chicago, I thought the last thing that I'd be in the world is anything close to farming. But I ended up this experience. I ended up during my Pepsi years that when the wall came down in Eastern Europe, I was one of the executives for PepsiCo that went over to what is Russia. Who wants to talk about Russia these days? But and we sat down with people in the Eastern Bloc and we started talking about food. And it started out because Pepsi couldn't get the sources of product for Taco Bell or Pizza Hut or Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever. And believe it or not, if you've ever been to Moscow around Red Square, there's a McDonald's that was anyway pretty close to Red Square, and one of the longest lines that you'd ever see was circled around Red Square, people going into the McDonald's. It shows you what was the state of Russian food at that particular point. As we were trying to solve that problem, and I'm going to tie all of this together for you, as we were trying to solve that problem of sourcing in the Eastern Bloc, I had a chance to see how powerful food was. Food is the #1 employer in the world. All right, so we can talk about all your computers, and we can talk about how well Elon Musk is, and we can talk about Jeff Bezos and others. It is food that drives the largest employment figure in the U.S. and in the world, for that matter. So when I was trying to look at, okay, how can my self-serving, professional background be of assistance to the community, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but when I graduated college and you get your first good job, and all that you're really thinking about is how can I do better and better and better? I remember the first job I got, I made more money than my dad, which he found to be really funny. He was supporting me on making more money than my dad's first job, but he thought that was wonderful over time, and I thought it was wonderful too. But I went on this growth curve, and then the corporation who I worked for, who at that time was the old American Hospital Supply, which became back to healthcare. I was getting promoted every 18 months. I moved 17 times. And now what if I look back at that whole landscape of a background, I worked for 5 major companies, and it was a wonderful ride, but every time I got promoted, it moved me further and further away from the community that I knew. And then when you get to a certain executive level with that, and they tell you, well, good news, Glenn, we want to promote you. The other news is, hey, we'd like you out there within 30 days. And then at the time I was married, I can tell you a whole story about getting promoted, married, and moving around all the time and what that does to marriages. But anyhow, that's a different presentation. But what would happen is HR would have your whole packet set up. You're going to talk to this realtor in this particular city, and you're going to buy we're going to buy the previous home, and we'll have you ready for the other one. So you really lose track, and you don't get back to reality until you go back and talk to the people at home, your sister, your brother, your others, and you're doing well, and you'd like to come back and kind of brag to mom, hey, mom, things are real good. But then your brother's not doing that good, then your sister's not doing that good. And so, yeah, you slide them some money, which is kind of the brother thing to do, especially the older brother thing to do. But boy, they weren't really sharing in that piece. And so as I tried to figure out how do I help my own family, it got broader into how do you help the community, right? So I'd always thought that if you write a couple checks, right, and find a big advocate like Cheney over here, right, you know that some work was going to be done, but sometimes the community is asking for your time more than they're asking for your check. And they're asking for your commitment and your brilliance and your availability, right? That's a bigger issue, right? That requires more. That requires you to get to know me. I can write a check to somebody and not know them at all and feel good about myself because I wrote that check, right? Anyhow, let me share some more. So every year, we accumulate as African Americans $300 billion less than white families. Every year, we accumulate $300 billion less than white families. And then there's the gap that we have with the Latino families, and there's the gap that we have with others. So we are struggling at the very time that we can look at people in our community and recognize how well they're doing. So what's occurring? Our collaboration is off. If there was one thing that wealthy men taught me here in the Twin Cities, it is about their team. I don't know if you guys know the guy who started Archivers, if you guys remember that company. It's Bruce Thompson. Bruce Thompson also started Lumber Liquidators. He also owned, it was a photo company. I forget exactly their name. It started with a P. And it was in all of the malls. Needless to say, he has never lost money in any business that he's ever started. He's a billionaire. Quiet as the day is long. You'd never know it. Drives a Ford Explorer, the whole deal. But Bruce is loaded. I went to see Vance Opperman. Several of you probably know who Vance Opperman is. Vance Opperman, another billionaire, owns West Publishing Company, owns key investments here in town. So you would go to one of these individuals and you'd ask them the question you thought, well, surely these are brilliant people. So pretty much anything that I'm going to ask them, either Bruce or Vance or some of these other folks would be able to answer that question like this. And you know what they would sometimes say to me? Oh, Glenn, you just hit me with that particular question. I want you to call this guy. I'd ask him another question. Glenn, I want you to call this guy. I want you to go have lunch with this person. I want you to get to know this person better. And it was always connecting. And what they were really doing is they were also saying it's not about how talented you are, it's about how robust is your team and how much does it cover. So now if we start to look at that from a community standpoint, I'm happy to have this chance to dialogue with you because I'm saying, at least I'm open to collaborate. I'm hoping that you are, and I'm kind of excited, to delve in this better. So we got 43% of us earning less than 30,000. We are well aware of the lack of investment capital. We are well aware of the need for higher levels of home ownership, which is another way of people building wealth. We are well aware of the educational gaps, and we are well aware of a whole host of these other systemic issues. We don't need to study that anymore. It's there. The data is there. The question is, how can we experiment together? How can we get to some forms of execution that allows us to, think about this. If someone is actually asking you to be so brilliant that you can never make a mistake, is that really a fair scenario? And in my mind, the answer is no, it really isn't, because nobody gets there. You make little tiny failures, and you never make the one that's going to take you out. But you've got to experiment your way there. It's kind of like if you're sitting around a conference room table, everybody is brilliant at the conference room table, and you go to try executing that, and it really doesn't work. And so you've got to tinker with it until you finally get it to where you really want it to go. So anyhow, let's consider this a tinkering session. And so if I would like to ask your table, how do you personally view the economic conditions that we are experiencing in the African American community? How do you view it? You've heard me wax eloquent about what I think about it. How do you view it? Anybody at the table can answer, by the way. I'll take you off the hook. How do you personally view the economic conditions that are in our African American communities? I've thrown out a couple numbers. You might feel different about that. I'm not saying my words are gospel. How do you feel about it? We are amongst friends. Yeah. Yeah. Did you guys hear him? Or should I hand the mic out? You okay? Okay. Not everything. I think you boomed a little better than I did, so I think they heard you.
Me then.
Please.
Hi, sorry. Well, I just wanted to say my own personal experience talking to people. I think the position of the African American community is a lot worse than I am personally aware of. That my African American friends are living a lot worse. It's tragic. We have terrible history in Minnesota and in Minneapolis of race relations and supporting BIPOC communities across the land for decades and decades. It is, in my view, unacceptable. It's tragic. Such great skill within this community to make strides. There needs a lot of support from the whole bunch of the communities to make that happen. And to own the responsibility that the culture, my culture has for that, and we have to be at the table to learn how this community and other communities that are disenfranchised want to move forward and provide that support. But I think it's, to your first question, a lot worse than we all recognize.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your comment. Anyone else want to take a shot at that? Please. Yep.
Okay. Okay. It's okay, because I speak loud enough. Okay. All right. So I would say that the Black community, our finances right now, we're really struggling. And I think we're all just trying to do the best that we can. And as far as business is concerned, if those dollars aren't constantly being turned around within our community, then we're not each growing. So I would say that we need to spend more money within our community and be specific and seek out Black businesses whenever you can. So then that way we can help turn those dollars around. And then, for instance, I'm a small business owner and I would like to be able to hire someone else. But right now, I'm not able to do so, but I always give back and I always make sure that I spend money I come all the way from my city to come into the inner city so that I can give back and use those resources within the community. You know who she is? Oh, I didn't say my name, huh? Okay, I'm Norma Anderson. I am the treasurer with the Minneapolis NAACP, but I'm also an insurance advisor with Mutual of Omaha and other carriers for the last, 15 years.
Community until we deal with the issue of money. As ugly as that sounds, right? Because again, I'm a business guy, so it seems real easy to blame everything with a lack of money or not enough money. But at the same time, it's pretty hard to do positive things if you don't have cash. Right? Now, as a Christian man, I like to think that my faith is bigger than the amount of money. But boy, if I don't have any money, I can't even get to church, right? So I'd be sitting at home with my computer, like kind of back in the COVID days, saying, "Hey, preacher, I'm with you, dude," but I just can't get there if I have enough money even to keep the internet on, right? So money is this necessary thing. So let's not be bashful about we got to get paid. Right? We have to figure out a way to get paid. So I look back. You guys ever read the book The Red Summer? So everybody knows about Tulsa, right? But not a lot of people know that Tulsa was one of several, and that in that period from 1920 to the from 1820 to, no, excuse me, I'm sorry, it is the 1900s, I'm sorry, not doing my math, I stayed up too late last night. So from 1920 to 1929, all of that infrastructure of businesses that was created was destroyed in that 9-year period. It was Tulsa, it was Redwood, it was New York City, it was all over the country. So it is not just hey, there was a little flare up in Tulsa and it got burned down and that was it. No. This was a systematic approach with how things are being handled around the country. Rosewood, big time, right? They burned it down. So this, and my point is not to, God, who doesn't know about slavery and who doesn't know about some of these other issues? That is not my point. My point is to demonstrate that we once created power and wealth, right? Power and wealth. And sometimes we think that as we are getting income, that's wealth. Income's not wealth. Income is just income, and I can fire you at any point and your income is over And if you haven't saved anything, then your wealth is at risk if you've got it, right? So there's those two particular issues. What I'm trying to get to in a very long-winded and convoluted way is I'm saying that we really, really need each other. And I would really like it if there were Black entrepreneurs that knew that if they created anything, that they were going to get a certain percentage of support from their community. And then they had to figure out all of those robust, smart market things that they had to do to make their business an overall success. But we should start from a baseline of, I can get the people off my block, right, to support it. And if I happen to be a little better than some others, maybe I get 2 or 4 blocks. And then I go out and I try to reach a whole other neighborhood that has some of these other profiles. And I have this that I can depend on. And by the way, who has something like that? I'll give you an example, because it's done around us all the time. We just don't see it, or maybe we aren't paying attention. Right? That's one. But what about another ethnic group, right? Chinatown, Koreatown, Jewish communities, others, right? So I dated since I'm not married anymore, I dated a lawyer of a big prestigious firm here in town. And again, this is not a rub, but she once told me that every time there's a new Jewish attorney that's hired for the firm, they get a mentor. And this mentor walks them through. And again, this is not sour grapes, and this is not out of school. This is not offensive in any way. This is a methodology. This is a process that when they came to the firm, they got this mentor who walked them through, made sure they knew the right people, made sure that they were included on some deals that maybe they technically weren't qualified for day one. You know, I am an old Jimi Hendrix fan, but the feedback is not as good as Jimmy in being able to control it. But I looked at that as this really powerful way that people got included and they got connected. And in this business sense, what I'm also trying to say is, boy, how do we get connected where we have powerful meetings that are not just networking sessions, that we have cute excuses for drinking alcohol, right? Or cute reasons that we can show off our latest drapes that we may or may not have, because that's not what it's about. It's really about how can I connect with you and create economic value that is beyond my personal capabilities, right? Beyond my personal capabilities. What I'm looking for is 1 + 1 = 4 or 5 or 6, right? You only get that from collaborating. You only get it from there. So am I overestimating the power of Black capitalism? Anyone? I haven't picked on your table yet. I like that. Oh. Yeah. Boy, you've got a few powerful things in there, right? So I want to make sure we don't miss that one. Number one, there's a difference between price and cost, right? That we might go into a scenario and go, hey, my eggs cost more here than they do when I go to Costco, right? That's about price. Now, but the cost of not having that in the community is frequently when your son or daughter or nephew or niece are looking for a job, they've immediately got to be looking somewhere outside of the community before they can get employed, right? Or they can stay in the community and make way smaller amounts than what they should, right? So the cost is profound, so much so that we should make price almost within reason irrelevant and come back to try to work with that entrepreneur, if they are wise, to figure out how do we take more cost out of the system so that price can be better. That's possible, right? That's absolutely possible. Anyone else want to give this a shot?
Everything that you talked about for the past few years, I personally, my name is Sheldon Green, I'm the local distributor for literally 6 Black women operated water companies. This water, the owner of the company, all of the investors, the top of the bottom. I met the owner in Texas. I thought the water is something that our community needs more than anything else. And let me tell you, 24 people, a lot of us purchase this water from you. So we need good clean water in our community too. So chemicals and preservatives, this poison is good too. And if you buy any hour of cost, it's twice as much as this water. Now, I know I can work on this, but I am not the financial guy. I'm not the spreadsheet guy. I'm not the tax guy. And I want to collaborate with all these people so that I can move forward and I go to the podium. I want to be the Midwest distribution. Midwest distribution for all of America. I can't do that by myself. Because I need some support. Maybe growing. So I need to expertise. Say, so I'll come on board with you X amount of time so you make sure you're going the right way. So you get the grant, you get whatever, then you go out and pay together. I don't need what is the problem? I need our support. I need specifically, I need getting out of the short. Well, I tell specifically speak because 76 outsold their water. There's some same things now, same size, three protect. They sold this water, that's not the things. And our community wants this water more. And therefore, they pick me up, they want something. And all I ask them is, Lord, ask them, why? Why don't you care anymore?
Sir, would you get the mic because he cannot pick it up on his camera over here? So everyone, when they're speaking, please grab the mic.
No problem.
Oh, good, I get to make people come up front.
Well, if you're a little taller, you can measure up. So 1186 is a Black owned and operated water bottling company. I've been doing it here in Minneapolis now. July will be 2 years. Hy-Vee has kicked me out. Solo Mark is the longest retailer that I have. Marathon on Broadway now carries it. Smack Shack on Washington and in Bloomington, I'm their official water. So it's actually on their menu. If I can get our community to purchase this water and drink it more often, because it's not only is it Black owned, but it's actually good for you, your hair, your skin, your nails, your overall hydration. And what I've learned over the past 2 years is that a woman's pH balance is very important. So your water should be as close to 7 as possible to keep your overall human body pH levels in check. And this water comes out of the ground naturally at 6.9 pH, which makes it pure water. Because it's an artesian water, it has all these natural minerals, chemicals that we need to run a good system. So I've been looking for and trying to collaborate with people across the spectrum. I don't know how to run a grant. I don't do taxes very well. I need someone else to do those numbers. I don't do a lot of the stuff that business needs to do. So I need to collaborate with those individuals, and I would love to do it with those from our community. So we all grow our businesses together. I don't need the whole pie. Boy, I don't need the whole pie. But I just want a fair and equal share of the pie so that we can all grow together. And as I become the Midwest distribution for 1186 water for the Northern United States, Imagine how much more we all have to open up our own businesses and all grow together. So collaboration is desired. The question is, are you willing to sacrifice your time to make a little bit less than what you normally would make from someone else to get to that place? For 2 years, my son and I run this business, and we're at that really weird place to where we have just too much business for him and I to run, not quite enough business to hire somebody to make it worth their while. And quite frankly, the water game is a hustle. Because if I'm not out talking to you, I'm not out educating you about the water and how it's good for you, then you're just going to buy the 24 pack for $3.
Well, number one, every business is a hustle, right? So let's keep it clean. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please.
Distributing. Can you and how do you compare your water to some of the commercial brands like Dasana and others that are there? Because, there's some waters that are supposed to be spring water and they're not really from a spring.
Right.
They are just tap water
Or reverse
that has
osmosis.
been filtered. And how does tell us a little, help me with this. I'm struggling with this because I like to drink good water.
Let's do this. Yeah. No. Here's what I think we should do. I think at the end of this, you should grab a chunk of tables and chairs back there, and then get into some detail that we can't get into, in this whole piece. But I'm game. Yep, short answer.
Very short answer. So 90% of water in what you're talking about is all purified. And purified water strips everything out because the FDA say you have to get rid of all potential contaminants, which includes all the minerals as well. Purified water is dead water. Artesian water is actually live water because it's protected on the ground. It's not used until it's harvested. So anything that comes in one of these and it says purified water is dead water, so it's no good for you. Artesian water is the best water for you in your body. And this happens to be the purest water on the market due to clarity and what we call turbidity.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. There's an interesting point there, and again, I'm kind of getting at this from some of the energies that you two have presented. I'm sure everyone in this room has probably seen some of the huge bank pronouncements. We're going to spend $50 million in this community, and we're going to do $100 million over. J.P. Morgan, Associates probably done it. Huntington's, thrown in there. So it seems like this money is just floating out here, right? And you could also be led to believe that it's just a question of me raising my hand saying, hey, I fit that group. I got a business plan, or I got this experience. Okay, just peel off, 5 million of it for me, right? Doesn't happen that way. One of the other major reasons why I think that we have to collaborate and create our own organization that deals with these issues is because big money doesn't track to individuals. Big money tracks to organizations that are set up to digest this kind of volume and that has some kind of self-accountability that it's willing to, in essence, to enforce on its own membership, so that when that corporate person is looking at how they're going to commit some time and some resources and their personal credibility, that they feel like there's some backup. There's another book, and I'm a kind of a book nerd. I hope you guys are seeing that. There's another book, The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, right? And it was talking about there's a tremendous amount of money at that bottom of the pyramid, number one, a tremendous amount of need at the bottom of that pyramid that's not being addressed, and they started getting better addressed when a group of people, and this is in India, where they decided that they would all get together and that they would teach each other and hold each other accountable, build each other up. And so you had this, in addition to not wanting to fail on the loan, you had this other commitment that you didn't want to let your team members down, right? And that became a more enforcement than any legal contract, than any other methods that we like to think that we impose on a business deal today, right? For 7 years, I taught the Emerging Leaders Program for the SBA in my spare time, which I really didn't have. But being an entrepreneur is a lonely pursuit, right? So when you want to really sort of stay in touch with people and meet new people while you're also working and doing what it is that you've spent the lion's share of your life doing, that was a perfect program. And what I found out through that program is that we made people learn things in teams. And I've been away from it now for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so. I look in on them because I really like the program, and I think it's really good for entrepreneurs here in the Twin Cities. And if you get a chance as an entrepreneur, jump on it because it's well worth it. But several of those teams are still meeting today. So that's been over 10 years that some of these people, right, have gotten to know each other, and they've built on it. And several of them have even formed partnerships together. Several of them have gone out to chase contracts together. So that it is a prime example of what's possible once people get together enough to find out where their business commonalities are. And these are kind of no BS people. These are busy entrepreneurs, so that they don't want to just hang out with you, have great dinners, and have, you know, something to drink. These are people that are trying to get to an end game. They've got the issue that needs to get solved, and it is one of the most reinforcing things that I've ever seen. They take, in that program, 20 people a season. It's for 13 weeks. They meet every other week. So if you're an entrepreneur out there and you can't figure out your tax stuff, and if there's other things about the numbers, which literally give you the shingles, that's a great something to become a part of. And all that they're really asking is that the business has been in business for about 3 years, because you need to understand some of the problems that you run into, all right, before you can really learn it well. So again, it's a great one. It is the organization underneath the SBA that's doing that is a group called the Enterprise, INTERISE. It's a great program, one of the best. So if I were wanting to establish a Black agenda, right? And I don't want to make this solely seem like this is not about race. This is about a collective set of facts that we got to deal with, and it just so happens to be colored Black, right? Now, if someone Hispanic came in and they wanted to join a group and we had a shared set of values, I'd have no issue with it, right? I've tried no issue with that, right? But I'm also saying that my skin folk, right, need a wake-up call to how this business game is being played, because we're not playing it well. And this is not about how strong you can be as an individual. Individuals get defeated by teams all the time, right? All the time. There is no one great enough to do it. I would use a sports analogy, but I don't want to do that, right? Just don't want to do it. It's too easy, right? I could say, even Michael Jordan couldn't win a championship when it was all about him, right? It had to be all about that team. And then you have to figure out how to work with that team. I'm also saying that one of the trials, if you will, or one of the tests that I think we should run is to come away from something like this with a group of people that would like to meet in teams that are trying to execute some things that now we could connect with funders, we could connect with the banks, we could connect with some of these other people that are consistently saying, by the way, in the Twin Cities, hey, we're looking for deals, but we can't find them, right? Now, it's easy for me to be sarcastic and go, hell, how hard are you looking? Because I know a whole lot of people out here. However, let's give people credit for being busy, right? I don't know about you guys, but when I'm real busy, I miss whole parts of life. Sometimes I have to have my family members go, Dad, don't you remember this? Yeah, Dad's go, I'm not that bad, because I have it in my phone. But it's true. we talked about this economic thing a little bit. Got some of your opinions on it. I think we've got some willing converts, right? How do we connect now with the corporations? And that, why don't one of the corporations kind of give me an idea, right? We got Wells here, we got Best Buy, we got Kemp's Mills, US Bank, et cetera. How would we connect? If we had this group that we had come together and we are self-disciplined, our business plans are tight. And the business plan doesn't mean that the business is just starting, but the business plan is about my growth strategy, right? It is not, can we do it? It is, how do I make it bigger? How do I scale it? So it's, let's face it, banks aren't the first money in an idea, but the banks are typically, if that's the route that you're going, the banks are saying, hey, once you demonstrate that you've got these pieces and it's something that we can look at to see what the trend is, we're willing to write those checks. And now if we have our group, which they can have trust in, that we have asked each other the hard questions. I've seen due diligence out of the you-know-what. Those questions are not, the questions can be frustrating, but I have yet to see one of those questions where I look at that and go, oh my God, I've never thought to ask that question. Now, someone might want it in their ratios. They might want it on their form. They might have a whole host of other things that they want to look at. They want to look at, have you looked at the ratios as opposed to just the raw number? But you know what? That's common. It's common. I've yet to see such a unique question that you fall back at it and you just go, oh my God, I've just never seen something like this. I'm going to have to go hire someone to give me now, with the exception of the law, right? Who the hell can understand all of that stuff? But in terms of just the business financial piece, there are no secrets in financial documents. It's a question of whether or not you're accurate, but there are no secrets in terms of what's being asked and why they're being asked. So, talked a little bit about economics. What is it that we should be asking politicians for? Reparations, okay. Go a little deeper. What would you expect if someone said, because I think there is, someone, Bush, right? Didn't Bush just announce that they want to do $50 million of reparations money, right? So that's just Bush, that's one, right? What should we be asking other corporations for? How do we set the stage for it? Let me give you an example of why I even asked this question. I had a chance to meet Eric Whitaker, and a name that probably doesn't mean much, but Eric Whitaker was Barack Obama's best friend. And Eric was coming up because he was negotiating a deal with United Healthcare, and he had heard about me and said, hey man, I want to get to know you, because I had been to Chicago. I'm born and raised there, so I knew some people there. Went down there and raised a little hell about what we should be doing different with the food industry. And so he said, hey man, why don't you meet me at the airport and let's spend the day together. And so, boy, since that time, Eric has done some wonderful stuff. It doesn't hurt that your best buddy was Barack Obama and could open some doors for you. But one of the things that he told me, he says, hey, you know what, when Barack got elected, he says, you know what, the Latinos went to Eric with an agenda. He says, and then gay people went to Barack with an agenda. He said, Asian folks went to him with an agenda. He said, the only group that didn't come to him with a hardcore agenda was African Americans. Yes. 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 That's okay. But an agenda it must be. Right. Why can't we do it again?
What did they do so well, so effectively, efficiently, that they were up and running and they had residual income within themselves, So if it worked then, what did they do?
That's a good question.
Here's my thought. They didn't go to the government,
Right.
They worked what they had. And so if we take this all the way back, it's not about slavery.
Yep.
The one thing that we did have was us.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't have now is us.
Right.
We're so divided and separated, and it's been conditioned. We have been programmed to think and act and perform a certain way. And it's hard to deprogram that because it's no different than listening to a formal people too. Well, today I tell you 1 + 1 = 5. No, it doesn't. We're 1 + 1 = 5. Right? So here's what I'm kind of going. So I think all the time. Everybody says the same thing. There's a lot of ideas. Just what my thought is, get it with the other places. What did they do? And how did they create what they did? And how do we tap into that? Because that was then, it was so effective and powerful. How do we get to now? And how do we reprogram the way that we think, the way that we see each other? And well, that's why we don't even see each other. How are we going to work together? You don't even acknowledge my existence.
Yeah, let me, no, please do, go ahead.
So all I'm saying is we have to be reprogrammed in the way that we think. And once we get it, then we'll get it. And then once we got it, control. It's just mass control because one thing that I don't believe folks want to see, and I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about the grand scheme, is for Black folks to unite. Because they know when we do unite, if we figure this thing out, that we're going to monopolize everything. Because let me say this last thing. Anything you put a Black person in, we do it and we do it well. But and then you give us, it's like you can turn ramen noodles and feed a whole family of 7. Right? We're resilient, we're resourceful, we have all of these ideas, but all we need to do is come together.
Are you a spiritual person by chance?
I am.
Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No. So sometimes I believe that if you are a spiritual person, there are lessons that you need to conquer before you are able to get moved to the next step, right? I believe in every one of your comments about our ability, right? But until we figure out how to collaborate, we are going to stay in Egypt, right? And get our butts kicked, right? Because I too believe that we are an incredibly talented group, but we believe sometimes in toxic independence. And that toxic independence is the Achilles heel for all of this strength that you talk about, right? So I also believe that you can't take everybody in at once, right? So you have to set up organizations and you give it a mission that we're going to stick to. And then you allow people to self-select themselves in, because you can spend a tremendous amount of time trying to turn people around who have a whole host of problems that we aren't equipped to solve. At least I'm not a psychologist, right? Now, if you can come to me with a baseline of some sensibilities, we can hang. But oh my God, if I got to figure out why you got a drug problem, and if I got to figure out all of this other stuff, my brain goes berserk, right? Yeah, because she would pull a pistol on you, and I'm not at that point, right? Yeah, you're going. Yeah. So I'm down with Sister Tubman, and I agree with it. However, I want to come back to the point that I started with. What are we asking the politicians? I want to tell you why I asked it, right? So like everybody else, again, I'm one of these proud dudes that got my mind on what it is that I want to do. I'm not kissing any butt. I'm just going to be good at what it is that I do. And I remember once going into, I've had some losses too, so I don't want to tell this story like everything has been peaches and cream. Some things have been harder than you know what, right? So I wanted to put a grocery store in North Minneapolis. In addition to having to battle with CPED, right, which at that time was not an easy game, right? You were also battling with people in the community who didn't quite get the point, right? or who would say, who the hell is he coming out of Chicago wanting to do something here? And I won't go deep into the muck, but it was a lot of BS, right? A lot of BS. And all that it effectively did is just made, you know, sometimes when you're trying to move a business forward, there's a time clock on it, right? Number one, part of that time clock is your personal wealth. The other part of that time clock is it's just a deal needs to get somewhere. A lot of them don't have years and years to get there, and especially when you know, again, when you're new to the city, even though I've been here now for a while. So I'm about self-selection because I want to work with people who are at the beginning of the adoption cycle, and I don't have to convince them. They are there with me. The political side comes from, I went in to talk about putting stores in areas and a whole host of other things. And you know who was there for the new market tax credits that were available, which by the way, is almost like giving you free equity. You know, so let's say you're out and you have to have a sizable deal. So let's just say you're out trying to raise $20 million, right? New market tax credits it's a whole, I call it a whole shadow industry, right? Because the people who make the most money in that deal are the brokers and the lawyers and the whatever. However, the money that you get, if you run that business successfully for 7 years, turns into equity, even though it was debt, right? So that's real money. Walmart stands in those lines, and Costco's stand in those lines, and it's all about jobs that you create and impact to communities and others. It's complicated as hell to know about new market tax credits, right? Hell, I've taught business courses. I got 3 business degrees, but I have a consultant out of Portland who helps walk me through all of those complexities. That's a governmental thing. So that's the government saying, every year we're going to give twice a year, we're going to give $5 billion away, right? And all that you really need to do is to sort of follow this particular script, right? You don't have to fight anybody. You have to be brilliant. You have to give people a plan that someone wants to participate with, but that's free money. Every one of the major top 10 banks is involved with new market tax credits. Wells Fargo, US Bank, you name it. All banks have capital gains, and what new market tax credit allows those banks to do is to not have to pay for an amount of those capital gains, and yet they are investing in something that gives them more profit. So, and what I'm saying is, hey, is it more new market tax credits that we need for our community, which we'd be idiots for not taking? Is it understanding TIFs and the value of what a TIF can be? Is it a grant that you need to understand? Because the TIF, as an example, might give you 12 years of no tax liability for the profits that you have. Why wouldn't you take that, right? That flows directly to your bottom line, puts more money in your pocket. So there's a whole host. That the world of finance is so wide and so deep that you can't get there trying to understand it all by yourself. And if you have a team of people that can sit back and say, hey, look, I just heard what it is that you said you were trying to do with your business. You need to apply for this, or you need to get to know people like that. And these are these interchanges that we can have when we're sitting around a table where we've developed trust and an ability to collaborate. It's money in the bank to do it. Now,
Can I refer to back when you said that Black people did not bring anything to the table?
yeah,
I'm curious that they didn't ask for housing and economic development and education for our communities. And I'm just kind of salty or curious
sure.
that they didn't write a class action suit of business just that we need economically within our own communities to help our children. So what happened to asking for loans for businesses? What happened to asking for education, assistance, money for education? What happened to asking for housing for low-income people? What happened to those questions that should have been asked to the politicians that you said we did not bring anything?
Yeah, so,
Well, let's ask the politicians, because we do have some here. Okay?
Yep.
And we didn't do the traditional panel discussion. I'm sorry, Michelle, with Bobby Wards. So we've got Mark Lobus over there. He's Ward 7, also ran for mayor,
Yep.
and Marcus Mills. So let's call on them and ask some of these questions to the politicians. Well, let's get them a mic. Maybe Mark, you want to come up here?
Come to the front. If everyone can come to the front and sit down in the chairs that were prepared for you to answer the questions that we are asking.
Just putting you on the hot seat.
I'm sitting on something that
Okay,
I
is
will
there
continue to
another
sit on.
person that needs to be
Well,
there?
these politicians are getting seats.
Yep.
But the one thing that was the question, what is it that we want to ask these politicians? And I was thinking, we don't want to ask them shit. We want to tell them,
Do your job.
we want to tell them what we need and what they need to do their job. They didn't get there for us to ask them diddly shit.
No. Let me rephrase that, right? Because that came across as passive. And if you really know me, the last thing that you would know about me is I'm not passive about anything. However, there are movements of, why don't I just call it resources? I don't want to just call it outright capital. I'm going to say resources, right?
Right.
And if you are not in that understanding, right, you might be out working your butt off, but if you don't know that these tools are passing by you, right, you are SOL, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's going to a politician. I'll give you an example. I was in Detroit, right? And Detroit's got all kinds of problems, right? Times 10. And when you would go in to see economic development in Detroit, they would tell you, look, we've got these kinds of resources that we are going to spend. And we've looked at Detroit, which, by the way, has a bigger land mass than Chicago, right? And so since we can't do it all, we are going to dedicate all of these resources to these particular communities so that if you want to come in and do what it is that you're asking to do, it had better be in these particular areas. So when I say ask, it is first identify for me what the landscape is. And then from the landscape, I can make those decisions. So it's not passive, not at all. It's informed, not passive.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
She went to the bathroom.
Marcus was. Well, I can attempt it.
No, do you need to flip your mic or something?
Which mic?
Hello? Hello? That it is. So can we repeat the question? Are you asking what are we after? I can speak to one of the things that you were talking about. One of the things that we're looking for government to bring is investment. And that's what I take it that's one of the major things that you were talking about, and trying to bring investment not just into the Black community, but into the broad enterprise of Black business and Black prosperity. And part of that is having the politicians who are willing to do that. Part of that is the community being capable of collaborating on a level necessary to turn that investment into the greater. We've been talking about that 1 + 1 = 5. That's the other way people know it, is the sum is greater than the parts. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And the truth is, as we collaborate, as we mix and bring together the expertise that each of us in network can accomplish, it multiplies the capabilities of that investment by manifold numbers. The last piece of it, the aspect that so many other communities have been permitted and we rarely have, is stability. What happens to our successful communities is they get destroyed, often from the outside. If you look at a Chinatown, you look at your Little Italy, you look at various communities around, what they were allowed, partly for fear. Sometimes the greater community actually was afraid to go in there, but partly just out of solidarity and control, they were able to stay where they were and operate in the way that they did, which was basically, we're all going to count on each other, we're all going to work together, and we're going to prop up one or two people, because it's all we have the capability to do. We're going to prop up one or two people, they're going to get somewhere, and they're going to be the pillar of our community that we're going to be able to lean on when we need the next step of opportunity. And when they're allowed to do so, without being disrupted in the process, success builds. It may build slowly over time. It may take a century, but after a while, you get tons of capable entrepreneurs, you get businesses, you get everything you need out of that, and the communities are coming up. If you look around Minneapolis, you see what the Hmong community and what the Somali community are accomplishing in a simple amount of decades. Like, the Somalis have basically been here for 30 years, since 1993. In 30 years, you have seen restaurants, businesses, even economic circular systems build up so that they have been coming along. The Hmong the same. We have been incentivized to two things, and this is the last thing I'll say, and we can come back to asking all kinds of questions. We have been incentivized to two things, and that is, one, if we build up, we will be brought down. And we have been incentivized to the idea of, if you are alone, we will give you money.
Absolutely.
So we have this, the programming you were talking about is incentive structures.
Absolutely.
We have a past that says, if we operate as individually as possible, we'll get a little something. We can be guaranteed a little something. And maybe we can live off of that. And maybe that's enough. But when we come together, we have seen, from Black Wall Street to Wilmington, North Carolina, from so many different examples from every drowned community that you've seen around the country. When we get together, we have a history of being demolished. Every highway is the same thing. Almost every highway coming through a Black neighborhood is the same thing. Now, the point is that what we have to get over is the belief that that's going to continue. And I think that's it.
Then we have to take a break because you guys need to help eat some of this food before we go, and then we're going to come back and take this up. But one of the things I'd like to say to that question, horrible things were done to us in the past, horrible, right? However, there's a point at which we have to say, okay, we're done with that, right? I get it. I want my kids educated about it, right? Because it also says that it informs you as to what we have to watch out for. But we can't keep carrying that bucket, right? Because and not because I'm insensitive or I'm an ass. Sometimes I am, all of those things. But it is also about, I can't impact that past, right? I can't do a thing about it. I have not been endowed with those powers to be able to do that. So how about we start a new baseline of where we're going to go forward? And there's always going to be people that are going to live in the past. But those of us that want to be the first part of that cycle of something new, we have to keep going forward and not looking back. You know, it's another scriptural analogy, right? That when you turned around, you turned into stone, right?
Can I just add to that, like your corporate question, right?
Yeah.
Like you talk about investments, and then you mentioned like the CPAD with the grocery store going in on the north side. Well, it sounds to me like there's still a whole lot of people trying to control what goes into our community, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like we need to be asking for this money without the strings attached. Like I don't want to have to give you mattresses all the time or tell you how many Black people are coming to my store or what the income of all these Black people are. Like we need the money without the strings attached. So then we can dictate where the money goes. And I would say that would be my corporate ask.
And then I'm gonna cap that off too. And then let's do the meal thing before Michelle jumps on me here. But what I'd like to say about it is what we're talking about with those incentive dollars is the ability to scale what your idea is, right? It scales your idea. And for us to not understand these tools clearly is leaving a ton of money at the table. But I get your point, and this is not in debate with your point.
Right. No,
This is in
it's your
support of.
point. The new market tax credits are super complicated. You're talking about a businessman who said that he needs somebody to
Yeah.
do the new market tax. That
That's
is
all.
complicated.
Yep.
The tips and all those things are very complicated. And really what it comes down to is financial literacy with us as Black people. Like,
Sure.
we need to go back to the basics and learn from our own perspective what it's going to take to pivot
Yeah.
if your sales aren't doing great, or ways to be able to get some of these cuts, because there is a lot of different organizations that are offering free technical assistance and other things that are out here in the community that we could use as resources.
Yeah,
So
the tools are here.
absolutely.
The tools are here. We have to find them. One more, Michelle,
yeah.
like promise.
Just something very quickly. I was invited here because I understood it's a question of what's the Black agenda for the 21st century. And I just want to say the Black agenda for the 21st century, in my opinion, is what the Black agenda was back in the 15th century, the 21st century. It's the same basic agenda. There's a basic agenda that will solve the issues, most of the issues in our community. God, family, and I'm talking two-parent families. I'm gonna keep 100%. And as part of that, and this is my thing, we really got to start marrying the mothers of our children, respecting our Black women. They're taking too much of our load. We Black men need to step it up. And so family, education, we need quality education. It breaks my heart to see these sisters out here in charge of the family. I got details on that. Education, and then business, for profit business. And when we understand how the market works, and how the free enterprise system works. It's not easy, but we can't take the easy way out. So we got to go out there and convince investors to invest in the products and services that we have. And so those are the basic type of things I want to talk about. To me, I think a lot of time we're focusing on all the, well, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, right, okay. But anyway, I'm done with that. What the government can do is support those things, and that's the way I look at what government can do. Help us support us in those 4 pillar areas.
Yeah, and the last point, and then we'll shut it off. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I am from Wells Fargo Bank, but I am a very big part of the community as well.
You apologize.
Yes. I think we're missing a big point here today as well. We do need to talk about financial literacy. So it's great that we collaborate. It's great that we get together. It's great that we network. But what other cultures, other organizations do is not only do they do that, but they execute. And execute in terms of their own personal finances, their business finances. And I think that with having this conversation on going to the bank and asking for money, we need to show and demonstrate that personally we are able to manage and be responsible for our own money. And that's a part of the problem. Yes, it's great that we spend a lot of money, but what is that doing to our own community, right? So if we don't talk about saving, if we don't talk about building homes for our families, if we don't talk about retirement, saving for retirement, investing in our own communities, there's nothing we can do. It doesn't make sense to go to the bank without demonstrating personally how you can manage your own money. And that's the basic thing that we should be talking about before going to our businesses.
How can you manage your own money if you don't have any at the beginning? So you have to have some money to invest in something. And this is what is happening within our community itself. You cannot, if you don't have any capital to start off your own business.
Maybe we won't do
and your
dinner.
family members are going through the same thing, that they don't have the money to start off their own businesses, then how are you going to invest into a business?
Yeah. Could I?
I'll be real quick. My name's Mark Globus, and I actually put together business deals for a living. I'm a commercial real estate developer. Thank you. And the point about I've done deals with no money, and your point about not starting out with money is very important. But I think one of the pieces we're missing here is when you're putting together a business plan, the most important thing to show, and Lacey alluded to this, is to show that this business is going to be profitable, that people want to invest in this business. That's what you want to get behind you first, is a group of investors, your colleagues, your friends, your family. Get those people lined up behind you, because you can make money and then go to the bank. I think that's a better way of doing it. And then that's a piece of the financial literacy that you'd want to have as well.
You know, Mark could, Mark.
If you're talking about having businesses that have, that you have friends that you can go to, one of the biggest problems we have in our community is that we do not have those friendships.
We don't have the money.
Right.
You can go as a white man to a lot of different people. You have friends, you have family members, colleagues, so on and so forth. In our Black community, we have this thriving on Black independence. We feel like we cannot go to anybody in exchange for a solidarity to go for a loan. We do not have that solidarity.
What's your name
We
again?
lose solidarity in the fact that
Rosalind. All right.
when you speak on those terms, you're going to always leave us at a shutout. When we're sitting here 5 steps behind, so you're 5 steps ahead, we're going to always find that shutout. We're going to always be at that level where, oh, I can't talk to 5 people because I feel like those 5 people do not see my vision because they have their own independent vision. The factor is that when we look at ourselves as a Black community and we're going to the table to get something to get people involved. See, we go for loans because we don't have the capital and we're trying to get people involved.
Yeah, let me.
We lose that factor. We lose that factor of the involvement when we can't sit there and say, hey, brother, can I pay you $10, $20 to do my paperwork for me? Hey, can I pay you over here to do this for me? And then be able to count on them and depend on them to do the service.
So hold on. Yeah. So yeah.
It's about you learning the ways to go about being able to maybe take 10 cents a day or something and say that to be able to get into a better position.
I've lost control.
You never had control.
I just wanted to respond real. Can I respond real quickly?
Hold on. And to your point too, because so this whole point, so financial literacy is a huge topic, right? So, and I'm not talking about the financial literacy where you don't know how to do your checkbook and your whatever, although that's real, right? I'm not denigrating your point. What I'm also going to say, however, about really big deals, it is really about the quality of your presentation, the quality of your idea, the quality of your relationships, and a whole host of others. Because if not, nobody has so much, when you're starting, nobody has enough juice, right, with any of your past that someone's going to write your ass a check for $100 million, right? Or if you're going to build a 100,000 square foot building, right about now, that's $25 to $30 million, depending on the amenities that you want to have in it. So things ultimately boil down to character-based work. But you've got to have the competence behind it that you can give comfort that you know what the hell that you're doing. And Mark, I'm gonna let you finish your point. Then we're done. No more. Until after we'll come back.
I understand your point about networks of people. I just want to say, I was at a meeting this morning with a bunch of real estate people. I didn't feel any connection between those people in the room. Here, I feel a big sense of community. I feel a sense of people who want to get something done and work together. So I understand your point, but I think that you have a much better community and a much closer aligned family and community than you may know you have.
You know, can I say something? I don't think that, at least I'm not, I don't think that anybody is trying to look at the scenarios that anyone's talked about and say it's not valid, right? Your points are valid. Your point about literacy, valid, right? But I'm also saying that boy, entrepreneurship, which is a part of what this beast that we're talking about is, has got to be hard-headed. You've got to be stubborn. You have got to see the nugget that 15 other people passed up, and you got to be bold enough to go in and challenge people with issues. And you know what? Sometimes these deals are so big that credit doesn't come into the picture, right? So as an example, who goes to the bank for the first time with $10 million? The answer is nobody, right? But these other intangibles that you add to the table gives you that possibility. And we can come back on that, but I'll let this brother know, because I know you've been standing up waiting, in spite of the fact that I said the last question, but
You know, I'm
this is that tenacity that I was talking about. You see what I'm
tenacity. It's my first time coming to something like this. But I hear y'all talk about individuality and, you know, how to present yourself and how to come when trying to get these loans and everything. And I think, like, we're missing the whole point of, like, there is systematic things in place, like redlining and such, et cetera, you feel me, that's in place that it don't matter how you come present yourself. It don't matter. You come put on a suit, you come white tee, smiling, how you doing? That don't matter. There is systematic things put in place already that's going to stop you from getting them loans and stop you from getting these business up before you even walk in that door. As soon as you walk in that door, you can have nothing on your record and have a good credit score, but that don't matter. In the last, 5 years, how many times have we seen on the news from Wells Fargo to U.S. Bank about this redlining? How much in the last 5 years? And still nothing is done about that. So I hear y'all talking about individuality. And you're right. Of course, as each person, we need to build ourselves in a better manner, you feel me? But at the same time, we can keep doing that like he brung up on Tulsa, the Tulsa race riots, you feel me? Like he brung it up. We brung it up and it got completely destroyed. So what I feel like we need to focus on a little bit more is the mindset of this system that's out here before we able to really focus on individual. Because if we said he got this thing that's attacking us, is making us go 10 steps back, why there's a whole other groups, you know, y'all speak of the Asians, and y'all speak of the Mexicans and all that. They come to this country, they got $50,000. They come to this country, they got these grants that put them inside of a house. You telling me that we've been struggling in this country for 400 years and we don't get that, but these people do? And y'all expect us as individuals just to be like, okay, well, we going to keep kicking this shit under the rug, excuse my language. It ain't going to work. We need to stop that system. We need to change the mindset of the system and everybody as a whole, you feel me, from white, black to Asian to Mexican. Yeah. But especially as a white, you feel me, because no offense to you, big brother, but y'all run these systems, you feel me? It don't matter what it is. Y'all run these systems, you feel me?
So
and
let me take a shot. And then this sister's insisting, and I can't turn it down because it's just that thing. Food's just not going to get eaten. No. Here's a point before you make it, right? One of the reasons why we're saying that we need to collaborate and pull our stuff together is nobody listens to a broke man. Nobody, not even in our own community. We don't listen to it, right? Let me finish. The point, though, is Tulsa wasn't started because people were able to go get a loan at the bank. Tulsa got started because a group of people recognized their self-interest and they got at it, right? They made that happen. They created their own. So they weren't begging people to feel better about me and loan me money. So if you got together with 5 other people and you pool resources, right, that's getting you further down the way than going to get turned down at some institution that doesn't want to give you play. There you go. You're going to do better creating your own system than changing one. The U.S. is the most powerful system in the world, right? And just because we're pissed off or feel shorted or whatever is not going to change that. Now, let's put a compelling case together on our own and move it forward. You'll start to see power gravitates to other power. That's humanity, right? You don't go to somebody weak when you want to do something. You go to someone else that's strong, right? In most cases. We'll talk over a drink. No, we'll talk about that. Sorry, let's give her due.
Good afternoon. My name is. And I need you to stay because I got something for you. Don't walk out. My name is Nicole Lee. I am a public relations specialist and brand manager for sports and entertainment brands. I've been representing celebrities and athletes for over 20 years all over the world. I agree with everything that you said, but I'm going to also disagree with the thing that I think the most. Everything you said is right. There is a system stacked up against us, but how you represent yourself and how you go out into the world adds to that system. I was homeless, sleeping in the back of my truck for months, but I was walking in the street dressed like this, and I got everything I ever needed because people judge you. Whether you think they judge you or not, they are judging you. And because I was looking a certain kind of way, exactly next to this homeless person, I was the one they were giving money to, because I presented myself a certain kind of way. So how you leave that house, if you already know you got the odds stacked up against you, you need to give them every chance you can to save your own life by that presentation. So let me get the number two. Now you made me forget. Go ahead now.
I'm so sorry. But wouldn't that be kind of like sweeping it under the rug? We still not fixing the problem. We shouldn't, as people, as humans, as humanity, we shouldn't have to do no extra just to get where we going.
We shouldn't, but we do.
We have to.
We shouldn't, but right now where we are, we do. You're right. We shouldn't. We have to change ourselves. We have to change ourselves. But real quick, let me just hit this. Oh, go ahead.
Why don't everybody go get some food and you can talk at your table?
There we go. There we go. There we go.
Let's do this. Today we meet at the same time.
Michelle,
Everything is free here.
All right. While everybody is grabbing food, Michelle, have you given everybody all the information they need about grabbing food? Okay. While you grab your food, I'm going to mumble, okay? And one of the things I'm going to mumble about is that redlining was invented in Minneapolis. Redlining was invented in Minneapolis. It was invented in Prospect Park because some black people had bought a house in Prospect Park near the University of Minnesota, and the neighbors wanted to burn the house down. And one of the people who was there was W.E.B. Du Bois. In fact, he was dating one of the girls who lived in Prospect Park. They decided that they were not going to move. They stayed in Prospect Park while white people were throwing stuff at them, yelling obscenities to them, until one bright Minnesotan came up with the idea of redlining. And they said, you know, we wouldn't have to worry about these niggas if we set aside these areas where we don't want no niggas, you know? And it was right here in Minneapolis that trend started, and it spread around the country as a viable means of segregating housing, and it was supported by all of the banks, including the banks in Minneapolis. Those are the facts. If we want to now look at the impact of redlining, just note the number of black people who have been unable to get loans. The ownership of homes among black people in the Twin Cities has deteriorated. There are fewer black people in the Twin Cities now who own homes than those who owned homes 20 years ago. Help me to understand that. Why is that? What can we do to get rid of this redlining? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Payson. It wasn't the Federal Credit Union that turned down your loan. It was the underwriter. Who the hell is the underwriter? And what do they do for your bank? What do they do for your credit union? That's all I have to say about redlining. All right. Oh, Roger. Pretty basic. Oh. Yeah. One of the things that I think we should do is we should, what do you think? Okay, we should examine our constitution to see if there's enough evidence. Okay, now what they're going to say is, oh no, there's no evidence of redlining. We worked through umpteen, Humpty Dumpty underwriters. And they're the ones who make the decision. Who's else who makes the decision? Okay, let's look at the decisions that are made. And let's look at what of those decisions have adverse I tried all kinds of things, but we need to tackle it. We need to have institutions that provide mortgages. We need to they
You want to challenge it, you see whether
but you I have a credit score. 700. They say, well, yeah, well, that's your Equifax. We don't give a shit about your Equifax. We're really concerned about well, we've been sharing about credit union. If you take this code, we decide
apply for a loan or a mortgage like this. And so, and they look. So I want to understand some of these things. So basically, you look at the credit score is high up there. The income, your debt ratio is right. That's where I think. And they don't make money off of mortgage, just like they don't make money off of cars. And so no sense is that's something to put in on cars and everything else. Because that's what they sell, and that's how they make that money.
We have to figure out why it makes sense to them, It's like, why would it make sense to discriminate against people of color? When you're loving money? Why do that?
That's just the thing. Sometimes if I go in race, it's the thing part of it. First, if I go in thinking money, and I'm able to make money off of it, and that's my attitude.
And we need to be talking. And then we need to talk.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my walker.
Okay.
Then I'm going to get something to eat. And we'll talk some more.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Good enough. Good enough. All right. Thanks a lot. Do you have a card?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, Lacey. Good. All right. We
You can hold it, or you got it?
Yeah, why don't you hold it? Okay, 1, 2, and I'm 1, 2, ready? 3. We got it. Thank you. All right, Lacey. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. She just said she's going to get one for me. Thank you. Thank you, though, for offering. What's that? Yeah. That would be nice. Yeah, I could use a little company. Yeah, I could use it. Thank you.
So I was just talking to her about like history, right? The biggest thing that so the biggest thing I was telling her about how when you discuss economics, right? You can't discuss economics like economics. How what was who was in control of what, how they making money, how do they drive civilization? Explain it to her that and call themselves Israel. And I said, this is the fact that every single time like you build up a civilization, it is torn to shreds. This is all. How is that fair? You know, to black cultural development and economic development. And we are doing our thing, and then we are, you know, destroying our civilization. Real thing was barter and trade. You want to talk the language, talk the language. Be real about it. Don't talk about anybody talk to somebody that got 10 million dollars. That's your problem. So what did I mean, am I saying it from the right level though? That she wasn't coming to speak because tell you that, oh, who's own the house, You can buy the house, but you don't own the land. Yep. And what they want to do when you do that, blow shit out. Say that's your car, you started working for them. But you know what's funny about that? They said they're turning the shit by life. Right now, right? What do you think is happening? Exactly, yeah. They're taking the law from the side, right? They're taking themselves. And no one's doing it. Black people did that. Black people did that. Trying to bomb them and shoot them. I just haven't had. You're not. There's no way you could have that. Think about those
Literally, that's what I do.
But maybe I'm misinterpreting. Maybe she didn't. I think she said something about this. She did say about flying. But she did say that she that was I mean, I don't think they're gonna say anything less. But I told her, yeah, I'm just gonna let you I still have a thought. Yeah, go ahead. She said, guidelines allows you to do this. We think that the spiritual guidelines and say you should install that. Go ahead. The guidelines say you have to be Hi, Miles. Robbinsville? Yeah, I mean, it just matters if you choose. It's what you finish. Like, it doesn't matter what color you use, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, it's all, to me, I'm like, if you get a good mix done or a good rocket,
It's all
Yeah, because you actually. And another Hey, brother. Everything is
Yeah, what you do?
I'll tell you how to really right? So that's what the black economics, not about the current. That's why I say you gotta change that. The mind structure of the game. We probably gotta change it before we can pretty much do anything else. To be honest, I feel like we don't change that. We don't change the game. We change the mindset of the game and the mindset of the people who run the game. Let them know we're not losing on this. We can talk all we want. We can do everything. We can see it all these civil rights movies that's been done over and over again. So one thing you notice, still standing on top. But let me tell you We're the largest market, right? Where are we losing? We're the right? Yeah. That's true. That's true. You are the one that but see, where we got up in a lot of industrial road. Did you know every race population went down? You know ours went up. In these last couple years, you know our population went up by every other race. I mean, every other race it went down. That goes back to that mentality, that system of who running this. You feel me? It's like once there's an opening, that opening is not open for us. You feel me?
Ladies.
Hello, everybody.
Turn it on. I don't know how you turn it on. I think, is it on? Hello. I think it's on. Attention, everyone. Attention.
Hello, everybody. Attention. If everybody can come back up here with your food, or we don't care if you mingle. We're little, as you know, we are way behind time right now. So if I can get everybody's attention, so we're going to begin the next half, which is going to be on forging a Black agenda in the 21st century. Peggy, Cynthia, Amuna. Everybody, please, let's bring attention and everybody come back up and let's get the second half started. I'm going to give it over to Lacey.
All right. Thank you. Am I the first one to go here? Nobody's listening. I'm out of control. I'm not in control. Okay, you guys, let's go. My name is Lacey Johnson. I'm privileged to be here today. Actually, the reason I'm here is because of, thank you, Cynthia. Nice to see you, Cynthia. Okay, I know. Tracy was not able to make it today, and I'd like to extend condolences to Tracy for her mom. And I spent some time over with the spokesman. And as a matter of fact, I was the CEO of a computer company, and we shared office and warehouse space, and I even did some editing for him. But once again, looking at the theme, as I indicated before, from my perspective, our fundamental agenda should be the same every century. That's just me. And that agenda should be faith in God or something that gives us a moral compass. Because that's what we're missing a lot of. It's just a moral compass. I tell people that the deacon of my church had 30 guns. Everybody had guns. But no one killed each other. Because we had that moral compass that the spirit that our religion gave us and the 10 Commandments and stuff like that. So until we get moral compass, I think we're going to have an issue. The second part of it is family. And it is the most important thing I think there is besides God. Just a good, strong family, having two parents, a mom and a dad, especially a dad for these young boys. And I tell everybody, my mom was a disciplinarian, but my dad taught me how to be a man. And I don't think, this is not disrespecting any of these sisters in here who are great parents, but my mom couldn't teach me how to be a man. And so a lot of our young people are just lost nowadays. So we're talking about God, we're talking family, education. We always cherish education. And until we as a community put value on education, once we do that, that's part of the solution also. And then finally, what we've been talking about, business. And when I say business, understand, I'm talking about international, competitive, free enterprise, for-profit businesses. And I say in all different areas, technology, investment, consumer products, we got to get up and just go out and compete. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to take centuries for us to get there. But until we compete, in fact, I'll go here, and I'm prepared into this, by the way. There will never, ever, I don't think, be true social justice without financial justice. And as long as we're going to the politician after they get in office, asking for stuff, versus them coming to us to ask us for stuff to help them get in office, the system, that political system isn't going to work for us either. You know, we need politicians to come into our, because we know how the system works. The people that got money, that's who they serve it. The people that's asking for money, they might just give you enough for you to vote for them the next time. And so you have to keep in mind of that. I am founder and managing partner of an investment firm. What we seek to do, because we don't make excuses. We don't complain about the system. We don't do any of that. We're going to make the system work for us. We're going to be tenacious. Just because somebody say no, we're going to say no just mean not now. We're going to keep coming back until you do it. And I have experience in this. And the other thing, part of the tenacity is, if somebody say no, keep going until you find somebody to say yes. Instead of just giving up and, oh, it's not fair. These are the type of things we need to do. I was talking to the young lady back there, and the young gentleman came up because we're this young man here where he can't see how he can get what he wants. And when I talk to our young people, and I deal with a lot of gang members, gang bangers in the street, I want them to know you can be anything you want to be. And I can't think of, and this is a true story, people find out, I can't think of 1 second in my life where I didn't think I could be anything I wanted to be. And that's the type of mentality that we have. I was talking to a young lady. Look, those of you who know Andy Griffin, that's this town drunk that every Saturday night, he comes along and lock himself up in jail. If we aren't careful, we'll be doing that to ourselves. And so when I talk to our young men, no, don't be locking yourself up in jail. You can do anything you want to be. And not only that, I'm backing it up. I can show you how to do it. If anybody's got you thinking you can't be anything you want to be in America, come talk to me. Now, it ain't always fair. Like I told the guy, having a dad was something else. When I mention fairness in life to my dad, know what he says? Son, fair is a place where they raise pigs. A man cannot be talking about whether it's fair or not. A man got to do what he got to do to support himself and his family. Whether it's fair or not has nothing to do with it. And I'll go even further. When I told my dad, they say we have to work twice as hard as white people to get what we want. You know what my dad did? He looked at me and said, well, what's the problem, son? Work is good. So they're going to make you do twice as much good stuff as a normal person. So what's the problem? And one of the reasons I'm here because a lot of our issues is just the way we look at things. I have something I call the parts of life. And I'll just explain to the young man back there. Look, the world is basically the same for everybody. Achievers, what separates achievers from non-achievers is how we react to stuff. And I have something I call the parts of life. Perspective, attitude, how you react to stuff. He mentioned tenacity and spirituality. You take those things with you through life, it's going to be hard for anybody to stop you from doing what you want to do. Once again, as far as what we need to do for the 21st century, those are the things that we need to do. I'm originally from Natchez, Mississippi, and people think of the South and they think it's backwards. And nah, it wasn't backwards. We had people who were mentors who helped us. In fact, I tell them, they never talked about race, by the way. You know what? They made life very simple. You, God, and the world. And there's all kinds of things out there in the world. Racism, murder, all kinds of things. But we're going to get you to focus on you. And I was just so thankful that the people that raised me, the adult, focus on the best you can be. I always try to be the best you can be. And I tell people, an interesting thing happens when you try to focus on being the best you can be. All the problems in the world kind of recedes in the mirror because you're focusing on you and what you need to do. You're focusing on how hard you need to work. You're focusing on your habits. You're focusing on the company that you keep. You focus on your life goals. You're thinking about what I need to do and to be my best in what I want to do. So those are the type of things that I want us to think about. And I spend a lot of times talking about to our young people because so many of them, they have just given up all day, every day. What they hear, how unfair life is, you're poor, you're black, all that kind of stuff. But what I tell them, look, I grew up poor and black. In fact, we had 10 kids in our family. It is a good number. And I once asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, how much money were you making when we were living in this little 3-room house with my mom and 9 kids? He said, we were making about $50 a week. Think about it. And so I'm one of those people who, yeah, well, it might have been a lot of money. Some people might think, all I know, I never got Converse All-Stars. I got the $2 tennis shoes from Kent. Yeah. I didn't even get PF Flyers. I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, to go to school, in fact, I was barefooted most of the time. In fact, when I see barefooted kids now, it just brings about some bad memories. But what I'm saying is that, once again, we can do this ourselves. We don't need no help. Well, we do need help. Everybody needs help. But I'm saying the idea that it's dependent on somebody being nice to us or somebody helping us do what we need to do. Nah, let's go out and take it. And I tell everybody, I used to play a little basketball, and my attitude was all, you can do whatever you want. You're not going to stop me. You can cheat. I don't care. In fact, I love beating cheaters. And that's the attitude I have in life, man. And that's the attitude I want us to gain in life. We can be anything we want to be. And just so you know, I'm from North Minneapolis. I've been here 40 years in North Minneapolis. I've been married for 36 years. My oldest son went to North High School. He graduated salutatorian, should have been valedictorian. Went on to get his advanced degree, master's degrees from Brown University. But see, I always knew that was possible. I'm not one of these people talking about these inner city, but nah. It's a lot of times it's what you bring to the table. It's not what the world is. In fact, I tell people, it's not what's out in the world. It's what's in me. And I tell everybody, it's not how unfair the world is or whether they're racist. What's in you? That's what you need to ask. And I can't go. We talked about family. I'll end here without this. And this is one of my pet peeves, the way we treat our sisters. And I don't know who we're kidding. I don't know who we're kidding. And I'm going to keep it 100. People don't like it when I say it, but I'm going to keep it 100. We need to start respecting and marrying the mothers of our children. And I'm not naive now, because I'm from a culture where the guys didn't always do what they were supposed to do. But one thing they did do, they took care of their family, and they worked. And they set good examples for their kids. And the men taught young boys how to be men. And so that's what we're missing. I think that's our agenda for any century. And if we do that, we will get ahead. Now, it took us a while to get where we're at. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick. But we got to ask ourselves, do we have what in us to get it done? And just keep in mind, and we're dealing with the racial thing. Look, this is the way I look at it. We were the first people on this planet, on this earth. Everything flows from us. And you have to understand, me personally, I don't even get into what white people think and their supremacy. Because to me, we are the grandparents of everybody. And any kid or grandkid who's going around bragging they're smarter than their grandparents and stuff, that's a fool. And I'm not going there with them. Just be confident in our ability, be confident in our history, and know it. And once we do that and just change our perspective on things, we're going to fly into the 21st century. We're going to start taking some steps to change this. And once again, it's not easy. It is not going to be quick. There's no shortcuts to this. My background is computer engineering. And as a matter of fact, and I'm going to wrap this up here. My first job in computers, Hennepin County Information Technology had 4 job openings for a technical writer. And, I take a lot of math and science, and I majored in English. And so I go down and apply for the job. Well, I score higher than anybody. But this female white hiring manager hires 4 white females. And I had to go and fight for it. But understand, let me give you this perspective too, so you know. To me, I didn't care why she did it. I didn't care because of my color, I had bad breath, my hair didn't look right. It didn't matter to me. She was the obstacle between me and my goals. And a lot of times what we do, we put more emphasis if it's a racial obstacle than is any other kind of obstacle. And I look at them all the same. You're in between me and my goal. And what am I going to do it? And so let's start taking that perspective on it. Set goals in life. Be tenacious about it. And no matter what the obstacle is, don't put one obstacle greater than the other. Because to me, it was just like if I didn't get the job because my car broke down. Because I didn't get emotional about it. And by the way, I'm a chess champion too. And I kind of approach everything like that. I don't care who's across the table. I don't care if you think you're a better player than me. All I know is this. I'm emotionally, spiritually, and game prepared. And I'm prepared for you. And I walked out with a trophy because of that. only black person in the room, but it didn't matter to me. And once again, I think that should be our approach on everything. Be the best you can be, not just in sports and entertainment. Let's go out and be chemists. Let's go out and be engineers. Let's go out and be business owners. Let's go out and do all of that. And the reason I'm saying this, people, is because I love you and I know you can do it. And all I need you to do is know you can do it and stop listening to all this negative stuff. If you got anybody in your life constantly reminding you of all the bad things that happened to you in the past, constantly reminding you how unfair life is, get rid of them. I don't care what's a person, a party, or anything, what organization, anything, get rid of them. Know that you can be anything you could want to be and go forward with a positive attitude. So that's all I got to have right now off the top of my head. But thank you very much. Any questions? Yeah.
So the topic is, how do we move the Black agenda to 21st century?
Well,
What you just said, it sounds like 100% of the problem is us.
no. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, what?
I kind of want you to explain, other than our emotional well-being, how do we get build wealth?
Right.
What?
What?
And just to rebuttal what you said, because if anybody knows, there's a separation in the Black movement kind of agenda between the older and the younger generation. The younger generation, the ones that are out here protesting, they say to hell with education. Okay? Because we've got a lot of education. I'm educated, everybody's educated, you know,
Right.
and we still didn't build the wealth
Right.
that we needed for
Right.
our community. Okay?
Right.
So
Yeah.
we have to kind of say, hey, I don't know. I don't get education. That's one reason why I created Bob Awards Club. Because I don't really care about anybody's education. I mean, it's good for certain jobs.
Right.
But like Dominique here,
Right.
she's one of our in our program.
Right.
You know, this young lady with a young child has to, her responsibilities are different. She doesn't have it like a Muna with a marathon, perhaps, maybe, master's degree, able to go in. But she should be able to still build wealth.
Right.
Through, and so, I want to focus on that. How do we do that in the 21st century?
I appreciate that. Well, first thing I want to do is clarify. And a lot of times it's not what you say, it's what people hear. And so you have to be very, very conscious of that. What I'm really saying is not that we're responsible for the problem. I'm saying we have the capabilities to solve it ourselves. We have the solutions ourselves, whatever the problem is. And that's the way I look at everything in life. I have never, ever, and this is personally, I've never, ever blamed somebody for something happened to me. If I look at it and say, you know what, if I made a different choice here, this would have never happened. And one thing about the corporate world you learn, if you give them the opportunity to screw you, excuse my language, they're going to screw you. And a lot of times it's not race. It's just a very competitive dog-eat-dog world. And so you're in control of that now. I was telling Cynthia, I think, I was in rehab this past year. I've had some serious health issues. And in my first few days in rehab, they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff, just driving me crazy. Miscommunication and stuff. And I was constantly complaining about it. But you know what? After about the second day, I say, this is what it is. You have to accept reality for what it is, not for what you want to be. And I just figured out, you know what? You're going to have to manage your own care here and accept it. So whether or not we're not responsible for the problem, but we are responsible for the solution. And the point I want to stress on that, we can do it. We can do it. So why sit around complaining about what other people are doing? And so the other thing is about the education. Look, I tell people the two biggest scams to me around that nobody talk about is college tuition and legal fees. And hope you never need a lawyer. You better hope you never need a lawyer. And So in a way, it's not necessarily a college education because I told you my great grandfather was fourth grade. So there's wisdom there, there's smarts, there's hard work. And the great thing about this country, and I tell everybody that who don't want to go to school, the great thing about this country, you don't need a college degree to be an entrepreneur, to develop a product or a service that the market want. And you know how to some basic business acumen. So you really don't need it. So from that standpoint, but last thing though, I think education, it just changes our perspective on stuff. It really does. It's changed mine. I can't speak for anybody. Okay. Well, once again, keeping in mind, my background is engineer, and we have something called scientific methodology. And we don't just ever look at one factor. We go out and we gather data. We look at all kinds of determinants. And so just as when you look at education from a race standpoint, you can look at it from a socioeconomic standpoint. You can look at it from a culture standpoint. And so I think we need to do all of that. But I do know this. And by the way, I helped start up a charter school. And I'll tell you this. I was going in, most of them I recruited myself. I go into these duplexes over North Minneapolis. I talked to the people, and I loved it because I believed in our kids. I know they can learn. I don't care who you are. I don't care how poor you are, where you're from. You can learn. And you know how I know that? Because that's what my public school system was. But I know they made you want to think Mississippi is backwards and the bad education system. I had one of the best K through 12 education you could get.
What's the charter school?
New Salem. It was help Reverend McAfee and New Salem Church set it up. It was New Salem Missionary Baptist Church. I don't even think it's in existence anymore. But I helped set them up. But here's the great thing about it. Oh boy, y'all don't even want me to get started there. I'll just cut to the core. We went in and recruited kids, and we were talking to other charter school executive director, and a lot of them was telling us, because there's always something different between what you see and what's really going on behind the scenes. And so they was telling me, well, you don't want them type of kids. They were running the score down, but we went in and got those type of kids. And long story short, and you can ask Reverend McAfee, anybody that know Reverend McAfee, you can ask about me, and then you can ask about the charter school. At the end of the year, these young kids that nobody wanted from these disadvantaged homes, they were in the 85 percentile range nationwide tested. And I could tell you about the Minnesota Department of Education, where we had 24-year-olds in kindergarten, and they accused us of cheating. So they withheld our money and then told us we had to hire somebody special to come in and test our kids. So if you want to know about the education system, I'll let you know. The company that I run, I told you, we bring investors together with entrepreneurs. Right now, I got a young man with a Black entrepreneur with a software company, e-commerce software. We have a company with the enterprise resource management planning software, ERP. We have a brother who's starting up a studio and movie and TV post-production. So we got all kinds of entrepreneurs. In fact, one of the problems I have is, and at least recently, when they think of a solution in our community, they think nonprofit. And look, let me tell y'all something. Nonprofit is not, there's a place for it. But until we get in this for-profit world and we compete and we knock them on their butts, we ain't gonna never get financial justice, which we'd never get social justice like we deserve. Money is a very big, powerful divider. So we got companies, we got places to go, we got entrepreneurs. In fact, you'd be surprised how many entrepreneurs we got. I had a brother working for me. He was in drug rehab and everything, 6 kids by 6 different women, and having all kinds of this. But you know what? And this is one of my favorite stories. One day he came to me and he said, Lacey, I got an idea for a computer game. But the great thing about it, not only did he have the idea, he goes in his pocket and he pulls out 2 sheets of this folded up paper, and you could tell it was in it been in his pocket. He's been carrying it around for a while. So those are the type of people I think about. I got a young brother, and you would never think it, North Minneapolis. He want to get into the go-kart business. So what we need to do is identify those people and try to bring them capital to help them exist. Now, starting a business is tough, especially when, yeah.
Well, sir.
Yeah.
We forgot about how to pass on our trades to the younger people. And when you say to me that we got to stop teaching them about music, the music industry makes $500 billion a year off of Black people, which we do not accumulate no more than 5% of that inside the music business. That's one point that I know because I've been in for a while. But we must, as a people, start passing down our trades. You said that you're into engineer. How many young people have you sat and showed them how to engineer?
Well, first of all, going back to the music industry, and you're right. But once again, we have to have a goal. Are we going to have our fair share in the music industry where we're owning stuff? And you got young brothers out there now, they're making pretty good money. As a matter of fact, we have in the investment world, and the banker probably knows something about this, something called Know Your Customer and money laundering, anti-money laundering. And where I'm going to, a lot of these brothers out here into selling illegal things. You'll be amazed at how many recording companies that spring up from there. And it's a known thing. So I'm saying we are out there making money in this, but we need to just set a plan to say, look, 5, 10 years, 2 decades from now, we're going to own 50% of the music industry. We're going to do that. And we need to get out of, because as you know, and
it's not just music, because
but, right, whatever the industry.
When the business of videography, what this gentleman is doing over here, there are all aspects of the music industry that our people can go ahead and be part of.
I agree.
Not even in clothing designing.
Oh, I agree.
There's fashion inside the industry as well, but we're not accumulating the $500 billion that and I have to say it, white people are accumulating from our talents.
Right. Well,
can I speak up as a young person?
Yeah.
I'm young.
Yeah, speak up as a young person.
I'm probably younger than everybody in this room, But I'll let him speak.
I want to say this.
Yes.
I agree with you on a lot of what you said. Times have changed a lot. They've changed so much. But what I want to do is encourage everybody that can hear my voice right now. I want you to go to the school board. I want you to get involved in education. Our education system now is going all sorts of ways. You guys know how youth violence is just out of control. We talk about change. Change starts with education. It starts with taking back our schools, right? It starts with changing the curriculum that's being taught in school. It's about bringing financial literacy into our schools. It's about letting Black kids see us in the school. I gotta be honest. Schools don't.
Oh, I just need somebody to put it on right.
I'm telling you. We need to be in the school, and I want to encourage every Black man that hears my voice, whether you got a kid or not. I want you to go visit the school in your neighborhood.
Well,
the schools belong to the community. The schools belong to us. It is up to us, the community, to make it.
That's a very good point. By the way, one of the things I have when I'm talking to younger people, I'm 68 years old. I lived through the civil rights movement down south. I lived through Jim Crow. I know what it's like to be poor and Black. I know that didn't stop us from doing anything. Out of the 9 or 10 kids, I think 7 of us went to postgraduate, got a postgraduate education. 5 of us got master's degrees in the family. And it wasn't because it was easier for us. It's because of what the values they instilled in us, and the perspective it was, and no excuses, and focus on what you got to do and what you need to do. So, and I respect these young people a lot, but you're talking to someone who came grew up in this country before during the civil rights movement, before we had laws and things, before we had any of that. You grew up in down south in Jim Crow South.
But I'm a young person, and I have to sit here and be a representative of young people.
Be young.
You talking about young people.
Yes,
right?
we are.
The factor of education has to do with the fact that the time we are in school, when we enter in kindergarten, we are immediately subjected to not having representation from the start. We talk about, we got Christopher Columbus and all these other things, right? But when are they teaching about Black heroes, Black successful people? What do they teach about Benjamin Banneker, which was the architect of most of DC? When you want to talk about, the problem is that how many times has a Black person, and this is something that you need to understand, is that we have Black people that go into that want to volunteer, that are at the top of their field. Matter of fact, it was a Black man that created the G network that we use every day now. It was a Black man that made that. Do you teach your students that? Do you even know that that's happening? That he was the one that created that? I know when I walk the halls in these schools. It doesn't matter. What are you teaching in history to let them know that they are powerful in this? And that is the problem with a lot of black issues in our society, is that we are not teaching our kids that they're powerful, that they have something within them that is necessary. Education is one thing, but guess what? When that education is being taught wrong and backwards, that's a whole nother problem. And guess what? Then we have our adults that are teaching us to, just accept the status quo. Accept it as it is. This is what they're teaching you, so you better learn that. And that's education for the modern student.
Yeah.
We don't have heroes.
Yeah.
Completely true.
Can I just give me one? Yeah.
You teach Black kids that they're inferior from the start, and they're going to continue to think they are.
Give me. Let me just respond 1 minute, and there's more to it. We can't get into it. But here's the thing: when I grew up, the Civil War was called the war between the states, so it's always kind of slanted. But the difference when I grew up,
the Civil War had 1,000 Black soldiers that were the first infantry here in Minnesota. Teach them that.
Let me say this though.
Teach them that. Teach them that.
But just one quick thing, and I promise 30 seconds. Look. When the family breaks down, you got to rely on the schools and things and raise your kids. And what I'm saying to you, because we had a strong family, I ain't care. The school wasn't that big a deal. My dad was teaching me, and my mom was teaching me what you're saying the school isn't teaching you. And so that's the issue, the problem we put ourselves in. When the family go away, my family taught me everything. It didn't matter what was going on in the streets or in the schools or whatever. The most influential.
A lot of older people don't know this.
Well.
And they work so many times, they're not at home. They see them all.
We talking about do we actually get some sense of facilitation?
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Cynthia. Yeah, young man here.
Right. Okay. The reason I had my hand up was because I just wanted to speak to the whole issue of mentoring and passing on knowledge and information. And that is very, very, very important. I used to have the perspective that when the slaves came over, they came over without skills, until I learned that some of them were carpenters, some of them were tanners, some of them were potters, some were, cooks and all of that. These people came with skills, they knew how to grow rice, So you see some of the movies, where maybe it was 12 Years a Slave, where they're talking to these people, about growing rice. And they say, hell, we know how to grow rice. And they were growing rice all over South Carolina, and the white people didn't know how to grow rice. So what I'm saying is that passing along information is clearly extremely important. And how can we do that? What might be a practical suggestion? I was talking with my two daughters. I have, a couple of daughters. And they say, well, Dad, you spent a lot of time. You got your doctorate in psychology and all of this kind of stuff. And you've traveled around the world and you've done this and that. But what have you left for other people? I say, well, they can get theirs like I got mine, And they said, no, that's really not, that's not cutting it. That's just not good enough, that you have a responsibility to leave something. And I thought about that. And a young person came to my business, and she was a young Asian lady who said, I've seen you over the years in your business, and I want to start a business, and I'm wondering if you could talk to me. I said, what is the business? I don't even know if it's something I'm interested in. She said, I want to start a dog bar. Dog bar? What the hell is a dog bar? She said, it's going to be a bar where people can bring their dogs, and the dogs can drink and they can drink too. And I said, God dang, that's an interesting idea. I said, now you have to realize that I get pretty wild now. So I'm going to start throwing out some ideas and all of this kind of stuff. Next thing you know, we're talking about how she can get the mailing list from vets and all of this kind of stuff, and we'll be talking later. Then it occurred to me, I should be charging for this. How do I charge for this? I know. I'm going to join SCORE. Have you ever heard of SCORE? I'm going to join SCORE. Hell, I should get some credit for this, and then I can take on people who want to start a business and that kind of thing. And that'll be one of the ways that I can contribute. And one of the ways that you can get people like me to contribute is to get on their ass and tell them to be a mentor, to join SCORE. Like this gentleman over here, he's talking about all the work he did with Pepsi. Hey, man, let's talk. I got some ideas about some things, make him work for you. Make these people work for you. That's the way that you can get some mentoring, and we can pass some things along. Put these old, I'm 81 years old. Hell, I'll be dead soon, but get me while I'm here, So that's one of the things that I just wanted to say about, passing things on.
A little younger than him, a little older than you. So, and I like to think that I paid attention to my surroundings as I've grown up in this world. And one of the things that I found out is that the generation before us worked really hard at what they do to make a living, no matter what community you want to call it. The Chinatown, they came in, the immigrants, they worked really hard. Their kids are doctors and lawyers. They don't want to run a restaurant anymore. You got farmers who have built, dairy farmers who built major communities to feed us. Their kids wants to go in town now and run a bar and have a nightclub. I'm a chef by trade. I cook on board submarines. I have a culinary degree and a pastry degree. I worked in some of the best restaurants and some of the worst restaurants. My son don't want to cook. So when you talk about why don't we or why are we not passing along information, who's interested?
Well, hey, stop right there, because it's your son. Your son isn't interested.
No, I was going to finish that. So to your point, who's interested? And because they've taken out so many programs from the schools, when I was coming up to school, to your point, right, I had African American studies. I had home economics. I had wood shop. My godfather struck a deal with me that I took auto shop. My godfather struck a deal, but my dad was a college graduate. So we had all of these programs to find our interests, to find what we're interested in, because no matter what background or where we come from, we all have different interests. And what those might be are no longer being cultivated by our school system, because the politicians have ripped them out. And no different than we talked about earlier, you get more if you're single than you don't get if you're a whole family.
Right.
So now that you've taken the husband or the man out of the household, you have women trying to raise men, and men now who just think women is an object. Because mommy's taking care of you, so now you think another woman's supposed to take care of you, rather than showing you going out to work and work for a living. So it's all discombobulated right now, and depending on how we see it and how we view it, your point is right, his point is right, his point is right, my point is right, everybody's right, but we can all be wrong at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Be right and wrong at the same time. So you're absolutely right that we need to be educated about our history so that we can do better and be empowered. That 85%, 95% of the venture has been created by black men.
Right.
By white men. We have to have enough sense to find those who are interested and mentor those.
Right.
My son loves sales, and I can mentor him all day. I can teach anybody how to sell anything. I can teach anybody how to cook anything. I can teach anybody how to bake anything. Those who are interested, the teacher's appears, the student is ready.
Right. Here I see something on a wall that says, I have these skills and interests. If anybody is going to be starting a business and they want to know how to develop their culinary skills, how to bake like a cake or whatever, here's my email address and my phone number. Please contact me.
Can I just rebuttal? I just want to rebuttal to the president. Okay.
You asked the question, so what's the first step of the agenda?
What is the first step of the agenda? Because we got
So that first step,
2023.
so that first step, that I talked about earlier, the first step really is, you would start a business without knowing what your assets are, right? So the assets are the talents of the people that are in here right now. So now we need to have a meeting where people who are an asset and who want to use the asset, we come together and then decide how we then want to start dividing up these talents of those that are interested in moving forward. This is not about saving the dead, right? This is about taking some people here who want to get some things done. They want to find out who knows what. This brother talked about SCORE. SCORE is beautiful for help with people that have good mileage and good talent, right?
Right.
So I would recommend that we form an asset map of the talents in our community that's willing to go forward. That's an action.
I love that. I love that.
Mm-hmm. You can divide it if you want to into where those talents lie. Someone's
Right.
good in real estate.
Right.
Someone's good at cooking. Someone's good at
Right.
whatever the issue is. IT,
There you go.
etc. And now we know how to find each other, because the biggest issue is we don't know how to find each other when we have those needs. And that would go a long way into refining that agenda. You won't do an agenda in one day, because black folks typically talk about all the shit that happened in the past that got in the way.
Right.
So that'll take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
And you got to emote, and you got to get that crap out, right? Now,
Right.
It doesn't advance the ball. We just go home pissed off.
Right.
So if all of a sudden we were talking about what these next steps are, I think we can get there.
Right. Let me, but before you step away, I'd like to say just one thing. You said we all know what our assets are, okay? Some people don't know the difference between assets and liabilities, and they can't read a P&L. And somebody was talking about with me, and they were talking about this way you get more passive income. I said, what the hell is passive income? I don't know what the hell passive income is. Well, we talk about like Rosalind was talking about financial literacy. I think financial literacy means you know what an asset is, and you can distinguish it from a liability, and you know what gross profit is, and all that kind of stuff that I don't know what the hell people are talking about.
But you know what? It's funny. Any step forward starts with you being accountable, because you don't know.
Right.
And through time, you gain competence because you are taught or you pick these things up.
Well, yeah.
So let's get together while we are incompetent on some things and get to that competence point so that I know who to ask for help.
Right.
I've got financial literacy questions, and her sister is there.
Right.
I can give her contact information, and I can ask her all kinds of stupid questions until I'm smart.
Right.
So those are action steps. You telling me how pissed off you are, or education, or whatever, doesn't help me, because education is not a strategy. Education is a tactic.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Well,
We're talking about some strategy.
Right.
So the strategy is, before this whole Juneteenth month is over, we have the chance to find out who's here, who's there to connect.
Right.
And can I rebuttal to the man over here? I've been standing here. The guy that was just speaking a moment ago. And my rebuttal is, I just want to tell, I don't really want to give so much a question, but more so a story. And the story goes, when I was very young, And this is my mom right here, okay? I came from, a big a background of music. I came from a background of, huh? No, she's not gonna be my backup. She's just gonna be listening to the story. But the story comes in at the factor was, when I was 5 years old, I was like, Mama, I want to be an archaeologist. I like learning about, I want to be like Indiana Jones. I want to learn history. I want to learn these things, right? Now, I had friends, right? And my friends went to, and I had friends on top of that went to their parents with the same thing. Mom and Daddy, I want to do this. The difference between my mom and my dad and their mom and their dad was my mom and my dad said, hey man, you want to be that? Here's every book you need to be that. Here's everything that is going to be required. Hey, we saw this book at a secondhand store that deals with archaeology. Hey man, we have something over here that deals with this. They got me things that charted stars and excavation kits and all this other stuff, right? For me to cultivate what is there, right? See, the thing that we do is that parents work jobs and they work hard. And that's no doubt on anything that you guys do as being the hardest working generation. Y'all Gen Xers, grinding, okay? The biggest case comes from the factor that when it came to our generation, nobody inspired, hey, here's tools, here's things, here's something that we see what you're looking for. We see what you're in a quest for, and knowledge and things like that. And what happens is that when we talk about to heck with education, is because no one's cultivating that. When you find out, oh man, your son didn't want to even do that. But the thing was that when my mom taught me was that it should have never got to a point where I'm 17, 18 years old and I'm having to scream out I don't want to do it, compared to, hey, I never wanted to do this to begin with. And learning and then cultivating the teaching and whatever else it was that I wanted to learn. So when it comes to learning and being in a classroom, you can't sit there and say, well, here's a curriculum. Everyone follow this choice because this is what is told to us to do for the sake of our jobs. You have to reach those kids on individual levels because guess what? Not any one child is like the next. My parents weren't like their parents. I was not raised the same way that someone else was raised. So we have to look at the factor on an educational level in every aspect of it is an individualized journey. Education is purely individualized.
So what's the point that you want us to get out of what you're saying?
So the point that I'm trying to tell you is that if you want kids to be inspired by education, you have to give them the choice to be educated by what they choose.
And where does
not
that
to
start?
tell them.
That's been said. So where does that start?
You have to start that from letting them come to you and listening as an adult, right? Because we have a thing of shutting down when it's talking about the old to the young, of going, no, this is the plan that I have for you. Yeah. This is where I want you to be, compared to where can I meet you on where you need to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where can I meet you? So you have to start there because you're losing a lot of these kids in their turn to crime because guess what? Ain't nobody listening. They listen to the streets after that.
Okay, I would just like to add, I didn't grow up here in Minnesota, so I know that the system here is kind of odd. However, perhaps we can start something new and start programs on Saturdays, get some teachers who are willing to work, perhaps we can get a grant. Because I went to school on Saturdays and it was called Gifted and Talented. Gifted and Talented, it allowed you you had to do one academics and then you had another choice to do something different. So I was on the chess team, but I also went on Saturday for math. So I was above other kids doing math, so I was always able to go to the next level grade. Yeah. So having things like that, and you can have sports and things like that too. But you're right, because you want to have music, arts, things of that nature. We need to get back into the school systems and have the trades, because the trades is where young people, everybody's not going to college. Everybody's not made to go to college because it's not what everybody's capable of doing.
That's right.
However, if we have trades in which they can learn how to become a plumber, become an appliance repair person, do other things, become an insurance agent like me. You didn't have to go to school for that, but you do have to take a test.
Yeah.
So there's different avenues in which we can encourage people where
Right.
they can make good money.
Right, right.
Okay, wait a minute now, hold on. She has her hand up.
Yeah, young lady. Cynthia, you're the referee. Okay.
Real quick, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah. Thank you. Take control. Young lady. Oh yeah, where's the mic?
Who's speaking? Who's speaking?
Yeah, come over here and get a mic. Come on up here and get your mic.
Hello, my name is Dominique, and I'm happy that a lot of people had good outcomes and good parents and stuff, but there's a lot of us who didn't. I lost my mama at 13. My grandmother, she grew up young, and she had my mama when she was 15. She didn't get a chance to finish high school. My grandma, she dropped out of school in the 6th grade. Her mama made her learn how to cook and clean, take care of home. So she didn't know how to read or any of that. I got taken from my grandmother because she couldn't take care of me because I was missing school. Truancy came to the house because she couldn't read and write. So anytime they sent her letters, I had to sit up and learn how to read and stuff for her. So I was in and out of foster care, lived with my father, and I met other girls and other boys who went through the same thing as me. And when they came and got us, they don't care. When you get placed to foster care, the foster parents, they lock us in the basement. They don't feed us. They don't care anything is going on. As long as they get that check, that's all they care about, including the Black foster parents too, because I still talk to my old foster mom. I told her I forgave her because now Carmen, they got her and she's sick and she need help. Ain't nobody coming over there to see her but me. The thing is, me and other young girls got placed into foster care. Yes, I have an IAP. I didn't learn how to read until I was 15 years old. I didn't even know how to write my own name. And I'm in my 30s, still learning certain stuff. I'm not afraid to say if I don't know how to do certain stuff, but I know I'm good at working with people. I like working with people. I like being in people's assistance. I like also running my own stuff too. And that's what I currently do. I finished high school. I'm the first one to graduate out of my whole family. Nobody else did. So I graduated, even though with an IEP, sleeping outside behind dumpsters behind North High School. And even the teachers there, and they Black, they didn't help nobody because I learned in Minneapolis is cliquish. And St. Paul, they racist. They don't care. Even the Black people in St. Paul, they don't care about their own unless they getting some money. No, they don't. Because my dad's ex-wife, she's a teacher in St. Paul. And she talks about the kids like a dog. She don't care. She be all like this in people's faces and the parents' faces. And then she always tell the kids, you ain't gonna be nothing but a hoe or drug dealer and stuff. And the more you teach a child, quiet. The more you teach a child that they're never gonna be anything, or you just teach them all to just about slavery and stuff, it makes them feel like they bad. Because not only that, they don't get a chance to talk to mommy all the time or daddy all the time. Dad's probably not home. He probably in jail or dead or whatever. Now mom is there. She has to work 2 jobs to take care of the babies. And I babysat too, and I know this too, not just from what I heard, but I lived at a lot of people's homes and actually helped out. The kids, we don't have nobody there to talk to. So the first person you go outside and we sit on the porch because the parent is not home yet because they still at work because they don't get off until 5 or 6 or 7 because they working at office jobs and whatnot. We sit on the porch. It's a grown man or some dude is in the game saying, hey, how you doing? You okay? You need somebody to talk to? We got you and whatever. And they send us to the park. And we sit at the park and they be giving us drugs and this and that. And it still goes on. Young kids come and talk to me about certain stuff. But I actually, when they come to my house, they come and eat. They don't have food at home. They don't have food at home. Lazy. Because their parents work, the county don't give them stamps because they make a certain amount of money. But these kids still don't eat at home. They don't have food at home. So if they don't eat at home, they go in different places. They're stealing. You can't talk about certain people and say, well, I got it this way in my family's and that. Okay, that's good. You was blessed. You was anointed. You was favored. You had a family that actually cared about you. But it's a big pot of Black kids that I come from that we didn't have that. And y'all keep dismissing. And you wonder why stuff keep happening because you keep dismissing it till this day. And that's why I was snapping out over there because it's still happening. You need to stop. If you want a mentor, you got to come into the community. A lot of these kids, they don't have nobody. Like, I don't have nobody. We struggle. You can't say, oh, I had it. No, we don't have it. We don't have it. I met her, and I met her through other people, and I admired her from afar. I finally got a chance to find this lady. I met Miss Ginger from somebody. But some people, they might look at you. I mean, some sisters told me I was weird because I told them, like, I wanna learn from you. Some ladies like, oh, I don't want, you're weird. Why don't you go around your mama?
A lot of people here don't think you're weird. As a matter of fact, I believe you're blessed. But let me just say,
I know her and she's telling the truth.
I'm not saying she's not telling the truth, baby. She's telling the truth.
You're okay.
What I'm saying is,
It's okay.
there's a lot of arms out here that can hug her. And one experience or two experiences or 10 experiences don't dictate everybody. Okay?
Right.
So we gotta stop saying everybody because it's not everybody. It's whoever we had those experiences with. I'm a foster parent now. I'm not keeping my baby. You know, I don't do it as much now. But my point of reference is there's a lot of people here who can have some cars who can help support you. Who want to support you. Okay?
But I'm not the only one. It's so many people, and they come to my house. They come visit me because other people they look at them crazy and don't want to talk to them.
But you're a star. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. We can start with you, and then if maybe we can help, because we're from the NAACP, we want
Right.
to extend ourselves. So if we can help start with you,
We may
and you
need
tell
you
us-
to help us start a
Absolutely.
program.
Right.
To be able to help these young people.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
One of the things that you were saying and somebody else was saying about, and I brought it to Miss Michelle about the trade schools. One of my foster moms, white lady, I stayed with her, and that's out in Hastings, in Centennial High School. They actually have a trade school. That was the first high school I went to. They had trade, so they had carpentry, they had welding, they had construction, and like working on cars. I learned a few things, and it made me want to learn more because beforehand my grades was all F's. So when I was at that school, I had all A's, and it boosted me to be able to go to a private school, and that was my high school year I graduated. But beforehand, I had bad grades, but also the community, also certain schools, certain places don't offer that because of funding. Not only that, certain schools will come up and say, "Oh, we need this funding for the kids," but none of the people that fund it to them, they don't check and make sure that they got those classes. So they got the money.
Can you tell us your name again?
My name is Dominique.
Dominique, okay, we going to be able to solve the problem today for sure. But we got some resources. So can you connect with us after? Give me your card.
I
You
can.
help and be a starter point with NAACP with the young people who are lacking and who are in need. And I'm not going to say we're going to help every single one of them, but we're going to definitely help provide some resources.
And we can
we
also
do that?
get some mentors.
Yes. Can we do that?
Yep, the root of it is they don't have family, and that they family don't know it. And if they mom was a prostitute or sold drugs and stuff, that's all they gonna learn. So the cycle
We're going to try to
continue.
help wherever we can. Listen to what I said. We ain't going to solve the problem tonight, but we're looking to be a resource, okay? All right?
Okay, we got to help these people get out of here. I'm gonna wrap it up and get out of here. Okay.
One more.
Okay. Oh, yes. Yes.
It's a young person. She's been sitting here for a really long time.
Come,
No,
come.
no,
She
no,
want
no,
to talk
no,
to
no,
you.
no. This lady has been standing. This lady's been standing there for 30 minutes. Oh, she's done? Okay.
Okay.
Lacey.
I'm Jennifer. I'm an entrepreneur. I have several different businesses that I started or would like to start. And I come to these networking meetings all the time. I love coming to networking meetings, meeting new people. The guy here who was sitting here, I forgot what his name was, but he had a kind of a point, yes, of saying that there was, certain networking meetings that he went to that he didn't really just fill the room, but here, he kind of felt the room and felt the presence and wanting everybody, a sense of everybody wanting to get to know each other and things like that. My problem is when I come to these networking events, I see people in power, people of, a certain stature. I don't see people like me. I don't see anybody like me talking about the struggles of their business. So I don't learn anything. I don't need to know about why we didn't, ask why we didn't get anything from the politicians. Me as a business owner coming to a business networking meeting, I want to learn things that I can take for my business and advance my business. I felt like I didn't get that here. When the guy was talking about the water and how he, got into Hy-Vee and different things like that, it kind of resonated with me. I wanted him to talk more about how he first initiated getting into the stores, because I'm a person who I want to sell spices. I sell spices as cottage food, but I want to get into stores. And so when I come to these networking meetings, I want to learn things for my business. And I really feel like every time that I come to a networking meeting, I don't get to hear from any of the other entrepreneurs that go through struggles, or anybody who's on my level, or anybody who's trying to advance their business. I hear from people who's already making money, and I don't hear the things that I need to hear as a small business to get to the next level.
Can I just say that there's two different organizations in which you might want to try? One is the Urban League Young Professionals. I don't know what day they meet. And the other one is the First Fridays, and the other one is the Minnesota Black Chamber. I get their emails. If you give me your information, I'll connect you along with that.
Yeah.
Because I know what you mean. Because
Yeah.
Sometimes
I'm a
you're
part
looking for that little nugget that can help you go to the next level.
Yeah, so I'm a part of a business called Black Business Enterprises. So we have meetings like this, and a lot of times the networking meetings, they'll cost money or something like that, and we don't have that. As small business, we're losing money. We don't have that, and so I want to come to more of these networking meetings where I'm going to see a lot of people, and sometimes I'll come to networking meetings and there's good, it's free. There's good meaning behind it, but there's one or two people there. And so I want to come to networking meetings like this, where we have, free food, free drinks. I can see a lot of people. Everybody's there to either learn something or tell something about their business that will help the next person.
Have you ever done Sister Spokesman?
No.
Okay. Tracy was unfortunate, unable to be here because of the death of her mom. But she does the Sister Spokesman, which is the first Saturday of every month. Because you have spices and things, I'm gonna get your information, because I like connecting people with people, and I don't want anything for it. I just like to help other businesses succeed.
Yeah.
Because when one succeeds, we all succeed. So
Yeah.
I will connect you with someone.
Yeah, I do a lot of different. I
Yeah.
have a spice
Yeah.
business I'm working on now, but I also do events. I do like candle events and home decor making events and like jewelry making. I do a DIY crafting.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
So my rewards push your process of Black business. Why we're different from everybody else, the neon, everybody else, okay? It's because we work on sustainability. So your candle making business, we don't want that to be a side job. We want that to be your income every day.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we want to strategize with you. How do we get that in the store? How do we get your product in front of people so that you can have that income coming in?
Yeah.
So everything around that. So our membership is $25 a year. It's been that way since 2016.
Yeah, I just joined you like maybe a couple days ago.
Oh, so if we wanted to carry some of your water, like at my winery and cidery, I would contact you. Okay, I'll do that.
We network with Dominique. We network. We're more than we're a family. Okay. And so, like, for example, and that's different from what BBE. I know Nancy. Okay?
Yeah, I will do that.
Because it's not, so I don't want to charge anybody to come in here like you. I could easily charge $100, $75 for this bill, right?
Yeah.
But we have sponsors here that help pay for you to have to come here to learn. That's how we see things.
Yeah.
So we're doing things differently. Our organization. I can't speak for everybody else, but I know when you come here, you will be embraced. We understand. I cry because this young lady has told me her whole life story at 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
Not just during
Until.
You understand? The relationship we have in our organization means that we're growing with each other.
Yeah.
about problems and have that understanding.
Yeah, and I see that, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that I would like more startup businesses to talk about the issues that they have going on or the issues that they dealt with, so that other businesses, small, businesses don't have to go through the same issues, or can take that little piece of what they went through, and if it was a struggle or if it was success, they can take it and they can turn it into their own education for their businesses. Like I would like to hear from more people like me. Like, I love your testimony. I love whatever testimony, but there are people who live in a home and got cars and don't have to worry about whether or not, I can't get a business loan. I don't want to hear from people like that. I want to hear from people like me who overcome the struggle.
I started this with nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
No one gave me anything.
Yeah.
Okay, not alone. Even to this day. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of people
Okay.
like you.
She's in charge.
So
And
like I said, we're connected. We have a help with breakfast program. We're connected with the everyday common person, not just the master's degree or the.
And by the way, sister,
And I would also,
a person like me, we went through what you went through. So just and I want you to understand, no one told me there was a networking thing where we would have those details. That's I would have. I'm gonna give you my card before you go, and you can stay in touch with me. I've been through what you're going through, and we'll talk about that.
I understand
Couple of other
that, but I
final
also
things.
feel like all your information is coming off of where you are now.
Right. Well, I'm saying I've been where you are, and I'm here available for you to come talk to me as far as where I was and how I got here and all the problems and issues. And we talked about the tenacity and all that good stuff.
Yes, but we need that on a more wide scale.
I understand.
Wide scale type of a deal.
And by the way, there are YouTube videos out there about everything, and I'm not using that as a shortcut, but leverage that. Whatever you want to know. There's a YouTube video out there that'll tell you more than one. So leverage that, talk to people like me, and we'll get that done. A couple other things before I go. This brother asked me to repeat the 4 things about the God, family, education, and business. To me, those are the fundamentals of what we need. And then one last thing, one of the brothers talk about what they need to teach us. And what I want to know, we have to be careful with our language and how we look at stuff. I never start off with what other people need to do. We need to start off with what we need to do. And I believe this in my heart. If you want to change anything or anybody, you got to first change yourself. And that's what we need to realize, to start talking to ourselves first before we start looking out at the world, out the window at the world, look in the mirror and say what we need to do and I need to do. And that's always I looked at it. And what that does for me, it empowers me. I don't look at nobody having any control over me and the power over me. I can do this myself, and nobody's going to get in my way of doing it, with God's help, by the way. And that's where the spirituality comes in at. I'm done. I'm out of here. Thanks for being patient. Thanks for inviting me. Okay.
So you guys, I do want to say thank you to everybody who came. I know we lost a lot of people. This has been a very exciting day, a little emotional, but I really appreciate one. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Michelle, I just want to invite people. To stop by my tent on the 19th, on Juneteenth, where we will be selling wine and cider. I am a wine and cider maker, as well as a DJ, as well as a bullshitter and other things too. But anyway, stop by my tent, buy yourself some hard cider and wine. I am the only black cidery and winery in the state of Minnesota and Wisconsin. And take advantage of that. And when I'm not selling stuff, I'll talk to you about anything that you want to talk about. Thank you.
So again, thanks everybody. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Marcus Mills, thank you. Thank you, Hilton Inn. Thank you, Marathon Petroleum. Thanks for the department, the state of Minnesota. There's 3 departments: deed, air pollution control, human services came in as sponsors. T-Mobile, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, Huntington Bank. Who am I missing? Kimps. So I want to say thanks to all of our sponsors. We've got about 20 of them this year. We broke a record, and I want to say without you all, we wouldn't be here today. Okay? So thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Let's see what the